when you, I'm going to drop the desktop audio. Let me know when you see the start screen on the stream. You good, Quincy? Okay, so you hear audio on the music. Okay. All right. There it is. Mic's good. I forgot I have my mic on. That's funny. So my mic's on. They hear me. All right. That's what we get. We're good. There it is. There it is. We are live. CVO Narrative, episode 11. Chopping it up with the homie, Dale Talde. So, yeah, if you guys don't know who Dale is and you don't watch Top Chef, I'm sure, number one, Dale, I'll apologize. I don't keep wanting to hang that Top Chef hat on you because I know some people are like, if they're known for something, they kind of hate it. They're like, oh, I don't want to be known as, yeah. Yeah, what's up, Q? No mic on Dale. Look at that. I know why. Okay, Dale, give me a check real quick.
Yeah, mic check 1 2. Mic check 1 2.
All right, you should hear it, Q.
Hold on, let's see what these guys say.
Mic check 1 2. Mic check 1 2.
There you go. We're good.
Perfect.
We're good.
Mic check 1 2.
Yep, we're good. Gosh, look at that. See, live streaming, it's always like a challenge because there's so many moving pieces, and when you don't have a production team, it's really just me and Q, and then really I'm the one pulling the strings behind all this stuff. So that's what happens when you get an old man drinking Jameson cold brew, trying to start a stream up. So anyways, I'll rewind a little bit. So what I was saying, and I think they heard me talking, but they didn't hear you respond. I was talking about that I didn't want to keep pinning this like Top Chef title on you because I know some people sometimes they don't appreciate like being classified as, hey, oh, you're the Top Chef
that's
guy.
Not me. Yeah, no, for sure, that's not me, man. I've been a guy who I do believe that my resume speaks for itself when it comes to the things I've done and where I've worked. But I do realize that Top Chef helped me kind of get into some places that I normally wouldn't have gotten, and definitely has gotten me some exposure. And I don't know, man. I'm just, for me, it's I get it, and anyone who loved the show, I still love the show. I still love the brand. So
yeah,
it's important to me still.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, the show. I'm religious. I don't even know what season is it in now. Like 18 or something.
16
like some
or
crazy,
17.
yeah, some crazy number. But every time it's like the DVR has been set for the last how many years?
Yeah,
it's
no
like,
doubt.
And then I just know.
Watch it.
Oh yeah, that's kind of cool. Like you have that sort of inside perspective of the show. So with that, and I'll do a brief intro. I mean, I don't want to talk about myself because people already know. I think they've been around the episodes enough to know about my brand. I don't want to make it seem like a sales pitch at this point. So, so we are again talking with the homie Dale Talde, Chicago born and bred, by the way. If y'all didn't know, because I know some people who may know you from the brand or out in New York. They don't know you're from Chicago. So let's start off. There, Dale in Chicago, growing up. Like, where did you grow up? The neighborhood?
Yeah, man. I started out on the north side of Chicago, Ravenswood, Andersonville. Parents had a 2-flat. We lived there for a while. then moved out to Niles, and basically lived in Niles from like 5 or 6 till I left for school, and went to school at culinary school up in Hyde Park, New York, which is about an hour and a half, 2 hours north of the city. And then, I got done with culinary school, went right back to Chicago, and that apartment was always filled. There was always some combination of my friends, with my brother.
You talking about the two flat that you guys own the whole building?
And in Balmoral.
Oh yeah. Okay, I remember. Yeah,
my parents sold it, but
yeah.
We always stayed there. So I off and on lived in there. I lived with Ish. Ish. Do you remember Ish?
You know my steez. I know Ish.
Yeah.
Very well.
I lived with Ish for a minute on Bosworth for 1 year, in Wicker Park, and was in the city for like 7 years after I got done with culinary school, and floated around some restaurants there. Naha. I worked at a place called Kevin. I worked at a place called Spring. I opened a restaurant called Vong with John George. And then kind of like felt myself like I was out of work for a minute. So I decided it was a calling from God, and go to New York City, and packed a Suburban with like all my friends and homies, and we drove out to New York.
Damn, that's like, I think of just all of the stuff you talked about even before going to New York, and then your career sort of taking a turn and doing some other things. So
yeah, for sure.
You grew up in the North Side, full Filipino, right? So both parents Filipino, yeah.
Yeah, both Filipino, but we do your 21andMe, and I'm Iberian and Chinese.
I mean, we are. And I don't want to get anybody triggered, but I feel like Filipinos were like the mutts of Southeast Asia, right? So like you have a little bit of influence of a lot of different things. I think we were perfectly content throwing spears and coconuts at each other, and then Spain came and said, "You're Catholic. Your name is now Perez." What?
Yeah.
Like, yeah. So, and then obviously be it that the location of the Philippines, I'm sure there's a lot of trading happening, and that's why all the flavor profiles of the food and stuff is all mixed up, right? You have a lot of influence from all these different regions. So tell me this, how was growing up as a first gen Filipino? So like your parents were immigrants, right? And then you're first gen. So tell me how, wait a minute. Thanks for the raid. This is Raph with the raid. I'm going to use this little sampler thing.
Hoy Luck Club.
The Hoy Luck Club. So big ups one time to the Hoy Luck Club. If you don't know Dale, the Hoy Luck Club, it's me, it's Dave, this DJ Kid Chris, RJ, Boy Wonder. So we have a little collective. We call it the Hoy Luck Club because we're a bunch of chattering fellows talking a lot. So anyways, thanks for the raid, Ref. Let's talk about that. So first gen Filipino. I'm the same. I'm similar. I think guys of our age group are probably 90% probably fall in this demographic of being a first gen. So growing up, and you have a twin brother. You guys are
It's not
twins,
a twin,
but they look. You guys
very
look.
close.
You look at how far apart. Who's older?
I'm probably about 60 pounds heavier than he is. My brother's been able to keep it together.
Yeah.
Shout out to my brother Rhett.
Big Rhett.
But he's 2 years old. He's 2 years older than me. But we were. If he was there, I was there. If I was there, he was there. So I understand how people think that we were twins. We were attached to the hip.
Attached to the hip. Yeah. You're older than Rhett, or Rhett's older than you?
He's older than me.
He's older than you. Okay.
He's older than me.
Gotcha.
He's still in Chicago. He's still in the city.
Yeah.
But
He's
no,
still there.
for me, growing in Chicago, first generation Filipino. I mean, our house was like any other person's house. We spoke Filipino in the house. I don't speak Filipino, but my parents did. So, it was like any house in Manila or wherever province you were at home, right? You wear slippers at home. Don't wear your shoes.
Don't bring your shoes in the house. Yep, for sure.
Don't bring your shoes in the house. Don't swear at home. There should always be a fresh pot of rice being made. And then you went outside, and it was, I was at school. It was square pizzas and tater tots for lunch, and
square
it was
fucking love it.
Yeah, I lived next to Golf Mill, and it was chilling at the Golf Mill in the food court there. But so I and to this day I still have this like, for us, we're never going to be Filipino, right? And we're never going to be American, right? We're not white.
Stuck in the middle. Yeah, we're like that.
Stuck in the middle.
Yeah.
We're Philams. We're Philams. And I think that's how I always describe it. I'm Filipino American, and I think for me, embracing that is a journey.
Yeah.
And especially from a culinary end, it's a journey.
Yeah, I
Still
mean
is.
it's definitely. I mean, again, being first gen, it's your parents come here and they're like just hustling, right? They're grinding to make it, right? And they're like, at least for me, I didn't even know I had sisters till I was 5, so I'm the youngest of 4, and they brought me over here to be born here as a citizen.
whoa.
So my mom was actually pregnant, so I think that's why Dave calls me like 20% fob, because I was actually conceived in the Philippines. My parents like, nope, we're going to the U.S. and they left my 3 sisters with my uncle, so I didn't even know.
Crazy.
But yeah, I mean, so again, going back to you, I mean, so growing up, there's just you two, right? Any other siblings, or just you two, right?
I have a younger sister.
You have a younger sister.
So
Okay.
I have a younger sister.
So what was it like growing up as like first gen Phil-Am, going to like Chicago Public School? Did you go like a CPS school, or where did you go?
I went, and it was a suburban school. It was in Niles. It was in it was Cook County. So it was a school out in Niles. I don't know. I mean, grade school was great. And we were in a very diverse neighborhood.
Yeah.
A lot of Polish, a lot of Mexican, Indian, Pakistani, you name it. There was just a lot, tons of Filipinos, tons of Koreans. So, I mean, diversity to me, I understood it.
Sure.
And I got it. It wasn't really a thing to me because we lived in such a diverse neighborhood. In high school, I went to Maine East, and it was like a magnet school. There was like 500 kids. There was like 500 kids when I graduated. I was like, yo, I've been in school 4 years. I don't know who that dude is. Like, I've never seen your face, of course. That kind of graduation.
Wow.
So, I feel blessed. I think that the diversity really helped me. But I also understand that, like when I said understanding what a Filipino American is still kind of a journey for me, understanding, kind of reconciling where I fit and where I fit in. And also because I think Filipinos are we're so amendable, right?
Yeah. Yep.
I think Filipinos, even when it comes to food, we love Filipino food, but I feel like Filipinos aren't the type of people who are going to go to like another country and be like, I wonder what the Filipino food is like here. They're like, no, man, I'm going to eat whatever. I'm going to go to like London and eat, great Indian food or try British food.
Yeah.
Where I know my wife's Korean, and Korean people are like, I wonder what the Korean food is like here. I'm going to eat it. It's like, yo, man,
it's like they're heat checking. They're heat checking the food. Like, let me see how it is here. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, it's going to not be that great. How could it be that great? Unless it is. And then, then I'm fooled. But I don't know. I'm still reconciling now. I've been having in my head, I'd love to open up a Filipino restaurant, but I just don't know if I'm there yet.
Yeah.
Fully kind of understanding the food, and I don't want to. I want to do it justice. So
I'm glad. It's refreshing to hear, because I think, and not to say that I'm downplaying anybody else who's opening restaurants now or who have these, the coined term fusion. You have these like sort of reinventing or sort of dressing up a Filipino dish with different ingredients and then calling it a fusion dish. No knock to them, but it's refreshing to hear a chef really, really think about, am I going to do this cuisine justice? This is my cultural cuisine, right? And like, I don't want to just put out like some haphazard product that may or may sell. But if you don't feel good about it, it's a good point. If you don't feel good about the food you're putting out, then you know what I mean? Like,
yeah. And I've never been one of those chefs, and I hate, and I've said this before, and I hate when people are like, oh, it's made with love. Get the fuck out of here, man. Like, really? Shut up. Like, no, you didn't make it with love. Like, do you have good technique, and do you enjoy what you do? Yeah. Is it a pleasant atmosphere? Yeah, that all helps with food being great. But the whole, like, I made it with love, shut up. Like, to me, that's like the most, it's the biggest cop-out, right?
Interesting.
So, to me, it's the biggest cop-out. It's like, oh, if I made it with love, then you can't criticize it.
Oh, like you're trying to get a pass. Like, so if somebody critiques
it's like,
it.
Here's my pass. If you don't like it, well, I made it with love. How could you not like it? It's like easy. Like if it's mac and cheese, your sauce sucks. You probably used crappy cheese, and you overcooked the pasta. That's why it sucks. It was poor technique. but you're hiding behind that I made it with love.
Made it with love.
And so people don't talk shit about like how crappy the mac and cheese you made was. So I don't know. I mean, to me, that's like, it's important, and I have to feel good about what I'm doing. So to get into the Filipino food.
Awesome.
To actually do it right.
I might have to try buying golf clubs and say I bought them with love. And maybe the wife she'll just be like, you didn't buy those with love. Like,
Stop criticizing your golf game.
I bought them with love. Don't criticize it. Like, yeah, because I keep thinking I could buy like new clubs and then all of a sudden I'll shave like 10 strokes off my game. I suck. Terrible.
So bad.
So here's a random question and just thinking of it. So who was the cook in your family? Was it mom or dad?
My mom.
Your
mom.
My mom.
Fantastic cook.
What was the go-to dish? The one that not her go-to dish, the dish that you like the best from her.
I have a few, but obviously her adobo was fantastic. I mean, hers is my mom's from Iloilo, so she's Visayan. So she does a drier style adobo.
Okay.
That has no soy sauce in it.
Yeah.
It's annatto seed and vinegar, and it's kind of cooked down. So it's almost a drier style, which I love. It's kind of rich in this like chicken fat and vinegar, so it almost makes this like vinaigrette on top of it. Do you know what charshado is? You've heard of it?
Charshado.
So it's like pork. It's like pork cooked with bell peppers and peas and potatoes. This is what my mom did.
Okay.
It has chicken liver or pork liver in it, and then you thicken the entire thing with breadcrumbs.
Oh,
onions,
so does
garlic.
it make it like here?
It almost makes this gravy. Not a lot of breadcrumbs, but
would that be considered a roux? Am I just randomly saying?
No,
cooking. See, I'm not a cooking guy.
It's a style of thickening.
Yeah.
But that's what my mom would make, and then I loved it. And I don't even know if she makes it anymore, but
man,
I loved it.
I mean, that could. So again, I'm just thinking with the business hat on for a second. Could that be one of the dishes in your Filipino restaurant?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
Yeah. I'm curious now. I'm like, because adobo is such a, like you said, it's like the unofficial sort of dish of the Philippines. I guess if you think
it's official.
You think it's official?
Yeah, I think it's official. I think that's like the baseline, right? Like that's the baseline for Filipinos, I think, in my opinion. For any food, I mean, it's like for anyone who's trying Filipino food, okay, try adobo. It's crowd favorite. If it's made right, eat it with some rice.
Yeah,
and you're good to go.
That's interesting. Yeah, I've had this many a debate with Filipino dishes, like as to number one, what the go-to is, right? So like I've asked this like in polls and stuff all the time, like what's your go-to dish? And typically like you'll get a round robin of like the following. You'll get adobo, you'll get like kare-kare, you'll get like a good sinigang, you'll get a good like palabok, everyone loves palabok. And then you'll get sisig, right? That's always like anything fried pork. I mean, you can't. How do you not like that, right? Yeah. Unless it's like a religious requirement, or you don't eat pork. I get it, but if you're Filipino, I think even the vegan dishes have pork in it. So that's the running joke. It's like it's
no
vegan?
doubt.
Yeah, but it was made in pork fat. So okay, so not vegan, right?
That's why it tastes so good.
Yeah, I mean that's the flavor. But yeah, they always get the combo of those dishes, and like I always ask like what everyone thinks their favorite dishes. But
well, I think the adobo is a category. I don't look at it as I look at it as like a cooking. It's weird because as a chef who's been classically French trained, right? You're basically letting this white person tell you how the fundamentals of cooking are, right? But it's kind of bullshit, right? It's like that's not all cooking. You didn't create all cooking. This little country France didn't create all cooking. But in the professional setting, they kind of like standardized.
It became the gold standard, yeah.
It became standard. They standardized. The way a kitchen should be set up, right? In almost a military kind of setting. But when you think of Filipino food, it's like okay, a lot of things fall into that category of adobo, even dinuguan.
Yeah.
Right, because that's really just an adobo that has blood in it.
Yeah, my vinegar, same sort of profile, right? That like taste
totally.
profile. Yeah,
totally. So you almost have to see it in those lights of like, okay, it's a method of cooking. It is a braise, so low and slow, but anything cooked in vinegar for this period of time, and I've used that as inspiration. Say, okay, here's an adobo, a classic adobo, but what if we treated these mushrooms like meat?
Like a meat substitute, yeah.
Mushrooms. Yeah, now you're making mushroom adobo, and how do you kind of like keep taking that thread and keep pulling it further and further along to it's still connected to the what's authentic, right?
Yeah,
but you're
the
just
style,
pulling that like
the style, the
yeah,
method.
you're pulling, it's like a shirt. You just keep pulling it further and further away, but it still has a connection to that shirt.
Yeah.
But now it's just taking another tangent, and we're putting jackfruit with the jackfruit in it, and all these other things that still taste inherently Filipino.
Yeah.
But now you're looking through the lens of someone who's not holding on to those traditions, and that's important to me. I think when I talk about my food, it is tradition. It's not fusion to me. It's authentic because it's authentic to my point of view, right?
Yeah.
To the walk that I've taken from
right.
being raised in, born in Chicago, raised in Niles, living in New York, now in Fort Lee, and the travel of all the countries that I've been to. That's where my food comes from.
Yeah. So for sure, I'm what's funny? I just thought about, like, I should not have done this live stream on an empty stomach. It's starting to hit me a little bit. Like, I'm like thinking about it. I'm like, damn, man. And here I am drinking cold brew on an empty stomach. It's like the opposite of what I should be doing. I should be eating like something greasy. But anyways, I'm excited. I would like to try the adobo. I'm a big Filipino food fan also. Like and it's just the same with, like, maybe you growing up maybe the same way. Like, I think as a kid I was a little bit more averse to not eating like the off the wall Filipino dishes. Growing up as a Filipino in a Filipino household, the stuff that was intriguing to me, and you can chime in here. What was intriguing to me was when my friends, say like my white friend who was Irish, when his mom made frozen fried chicken and mac and cheese and mashed potatoes, it was like a feast for me, because I don't eat that, right? I'm like at home and my mom's making like pusit, like squid in in a pot, and then it's like pour the ink and the squid on rice, and that's all you're eating. And I'm like, and my friends used to trip on me like, man, it's like, and he used to call me Walter, by the way, because he couldn't pronounce Voltaire. So he called me Walter. And I used to trip out because I would eat so much, and his mom would be like, do they feed you at home? I'm like, they do. I just don't get to eat this stuff. Like, this is
No. Oh, dude, I was the same way.
Yeah.
And but my story was the opposite. I would tell the story of like, it was like English class, and you had to do the, like, not a method, but you basically had to tell a story, or like what you did in a day, right? And
sure.
Do it in perfect grammar and all that stuff. So I tell them, oh, this is what I did. This is what I ate for dinner. My mom made X, Y, and Z, and we sat down, and we didn't all sit down together and eat it, but we ate. This is what we ate. And this dude that I knew, is my friend, this Jewish kid, was like, did your mom cook every day? I'm like, she cooks like 3 times a day, dude.
Yeah.
She doesn't cook like once a day. She cooks all the time.
Hell yeah.
And he was like, man, he was so jealous. And I was like, why? He's like, my mom doesn't cook at all. And what she does is she throws me $20 and tells me to go to, do you know the Works on Dempster?
Yes. Oh, yeah. Oh, shoot.
She's like, yo, go to the Works on Dempster and order whatever you want.
Wow.
So he was like, yo, I would go eat gyros, chili cheese dog,
hell
pizza
yeah.
puff.
Pizza puffs. Shout out Chicago, like, pizza puffs. Yeah.
Dude, you can't get pizza puffs everywhere, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I was so amazed. I was like, holy shit, dude, that is like Christmas. Because when I come home, there's food that you have to eat. There's no options, right? No one's asking you you're
what
not
do you
pointing
want for
at a menu
dinner?
and say, I'd like X, Y, and Z. Yeah. It's like, this is what you're eating, or you're not eating at all.
That's a great call out. As a father, I'm sure you can relate.
Totally.
I have to, like, I fall victim to my kids who tell me what they want to eat, and sometimes I always want to be like, no, you're going to eat this, but people don't understand when you have a full-time job and you have these kids and you're trying to be a good husband, and then I'm doing this, the streams and DJing and all this other stuff, and that's like a second job essentially. I don't have time to argue. Like, and if they don't want to eat, I'm like, okay, mac and cheese it is. I was like,
You don't have time to make something again.
Yes.
Right. You don't have time to do another thing. So yeah, I feel it. And that's kind of what got me into cooking. Is there was a fish head sinigang at home, and I was like, I'm not eating that. And my mom was like, well, whatever you want to eat, you have to make it. So I was like, listen, going through the cupboard, I was like, oh, here's apple, here's a box of pancake mix. And I looked at the back of the box, said apple pancakes. I'm like, I can make this. This isn't too hard. And I made it. And I was like, I can do this. And then I think that's, one of the things that kind of got me into cooking, that watching my mom cook, every Thanksgiving or Christmas, seeing all the aunties get together with all the potluck, the conversations about what they're making. I think that was like super important to me. Like, you would hear these conversations, and I was hearing it in Ilonggo, and and you would hear pancit molo. You would hear these things getting thrown, palabok. You would hear these things get thrown out. I was like, oh, I see what they're doing. They're organizing who's gonna make what, and they're saying to certain people, you should make this because I want to eat this on Christmas.
You're good at it probably. Like that's
you're good at that. I want to
try.
I want you to make that. Yeah. So like that was interesting to me, and I think that's kind of what spurred my interest in. And I think I also grew up in a time where like Emerald Lagasse was doing his BAM thing on Food Network.
Yeah.
Martin Yan.
Yan can cook, baby.
I watched PBS and watched Martin Yan. He was killing it. And I was like, this is super interesting to me. So I think that's also helped spur kind of like where I was destined to go.
Martin Yan was dope, by the way. Man,
he still is, man. And he looks exactly the same.
Dude, he's like a vampire.
As many Asian jokes as you want, but the dude looks exactly the same as he did 30 years ago.
That's crazy.
Yeah, we got a couple things here in the chat. Dave wants to let you know that your nephew Kai is hanging out in the chat with us.
Oh,
Kai.
Is that Red's Kai?
Yeah, it's my brother's kid.
Yeah.
I go to sleep.
No, I think Kai is 26 or something like that.
What?
Say it again.
No, I said Kai is older now. How old is he now?
He was 22.
God, dude.
Jeez.
22.
We're getting old, bro. We're getting old.
And then a question from Tickle My Soul is Top Chef related question. Hi Dale, would you compete in Top Chef Masters if they invite you for a new season?
Would I be back if they invited me for a new season?
For Top Chef Masters.
Oh, of course I would. I love that. I love the show. I mean, it's hard with a kid, but I would love to be back. This past season, there was a little inquiry saying, would you be available? And the timing didn't work out. So I was like, I got to take a pass on it because I was opening my restaurant right in September. And that's when they kind of sent everyone when you're supposed to film. But, keep a word out. You might see me. You might see me here and there.
We want to see you fight somebody. Show
those days are over. Those days are over, man.
Course.
A lot of therapy. And I think I should probably go ahead for some more if I can do it again. But,
you good, man. Me too, man. I'm the same way. So we sort of set the stage. We talked about you growing up. It's Filipino. You got Filipino parents. Eating Filipino food. What was the inflection point for you? So obviously you kind of went through school, and I'm sure you had thoughts of being this or being that. I think I found it very interesting that you were breaking down those detailed conversations, because I know for me, I was not even listening to any of the stuff they were talking about food. Like, I was just eating it, and then I was eating it with paper towels in my shirt because I was sweating. So they would put the paper towels, like, Walter, you stop running, you're gonna get the cold. And they put So what was the inflection point? Like, I think, was it high school? Like, when did you actually start thinking like being a chef might really be a thing?
I think there's a couple points in growing up when I was like, okay, I want to do this. It was definitely, I had one of those jobs where, what do they call that? Where you just call random people and take a survey.
Telemarketer.
I was a telemarketer.
Yeah.
And fell asleep. And then they're like, you shouldn't come back. So I was like, yo, anything that involves me sitting behind a desk, having to do something, is probably not going to be the job for me. So then I got a job later at a grocery store that's no longer in Chicago, Butera.
Shout out Butera one time. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Yo. And there were moments there that I like really remember, like when the Mexican family would come in and there'd be pork shoulder and they would get masa and they would get corn husks and guajillo chilies and all these types of chilies. And you had to remember, this is the thing, you had to remember these codes of chilies and all different random things, right?
Oh, right. To ring them up or whatever? Or?
Yeah, to ring it up.
Yeah.
So in my mind, what you're seeing is a dish being built, right? She was making tamales, red chili and pork tamales. I never asked. But years later, I was so inquisitive as to like, well, I wonder what they're doing with all this, right? And then at some point it clicked, like, oh, they're making that. And then you would see the Indian family come in with like more chilies,
cardamom,
tons of spices, and a lot of dairy, right? But no meat. And you're like, oh, what? You know, and at that point, I didn't know that people were, you know, that some cultures in India don't eat or vegetarian.
Yeah.
But then it made sense. I was like, oh, yo, you know, later it's like, oh, they're vegetarian. So there was always this very inquisitive nature to me regarding food. Like, I just didn't take it for granted that this person, you know, bought this stuff in bulk.
Yeah.
I saw it as like, you're building something and I'm curious as to what it is that you're building, because cilantro, chilies, onions, garlic, masa, corn husks, all this stuff, like that was a dish. And I remember that very vividly. Like, as you know, I'm a checker at a grocery store, like that helped build that for me. And then obviously, you know, the things I talked about before, like going, you know, just like being at Christmas and going, I wonder what everyone's making this year.
Damn, I mean, you're like the Neo of this shit. So like, it's funny. That's like the Neo moment in Matrix where like he's starting to realize like, oh shit, like I am faster than these people. And it's like you're in the grocery store and you're just checking shit out. And you're like, yeah, these fucking ingredients. And then you're like wondering to yourself, I mean, I can't imagine. And I worked at a grocery store. I was not fortunate enough to work the register. I was the manual labor guy, like go get the carts guy, right? So, to even think that at that age, there's no way I would have been like looking at like people buying shit and like, I wonder what dish that makes. Like, I would have been like, what time do I get off? Like, man, that's crazy. So that's.
Yeah, no, I was 16. I was 15. I was 16, and I was, and it was like one of those things where I was like super curious as to what I wanted to know what it was all about, right?
Yeah.
And then I would go to like the prepared food sections, and there was a dude who I went to high school with, and he was like, and he would tell me, and this is where I didn't understand the concept of like, this is just got made, this is when you should eat it. Like, I would be like, oh, let me get some fried chicken. He's like, don't eat this fried chicken. It's not, it's been out for a minute. There's no new batch coming out. And I was like, oh, that makes a big difference. Like, yeah, I'm going to go get it fresh. And so, you know, there was moments where I started to realize that like I had a curious nature about food and wanted to know more about it. Like, you know what I was always curious about was the panettone, the Italian, the Italian like Christmas bread.
Yeah.
It would only come out once a year. I was like, what's so special about this bread that it's always here during Christmas and there's only a certain person that gets it?
Yeah.
Right? It's only old Italian grandmothers and old Italian families who get this stuff. So then I bought one and ate it, and I was like, oh, it's fruitcake. That sucks. I was like, I don't ever want to eat that again.
But like you said, I think that's for the old Italian lady. That's what they know, right? That's the method. Yep. That's what the go-to sort of food or like.
You don't even question it. It's Christmas time.
You buy
get a panettone. Yeah. You get
absolutely.
Fruitcake.
Just like Filipino Thanksgiving.
It's like for us during Christmas, if you don't get one of those tins of one of those like the blue tins with
cookies, the butter
cookies in it that they put they put their sewing kit in it after you're done. Yeah, for sure. You don't get one of those during Christmas, it's not a real Christmas, right? Someone failed.
Oh, and then you don't get a honey baked ham because that's also, I know. Oh, look at that. You gotta get it, man.
Because if you don't have a honey baked ham, then you don't get ham sandwiches.
Yeah.
Which is a crime.
You refry it. Oh yeah, delicious.
And you're pissed. You're like, man, Christmas wasn't that good.
You're like, damn it, man.
Christmas kind of sucked this year. Why? No one bought a ham.
Not sponsored. Shout out to Honey Baked Ham. They get my money every year.
Oh man, as they should. That's a legit. On golf, they opened up a Honey Baked Ham like they had a restaurant
like
there
a sit down
that sold ham. Yeah, that made sandwiches, and I was like, man, I want to go to there. I never made it when I go back to see my family, but I was like, because I'm always headed across the street. It's across the street from the works. So I was like,
yeah.
Should I get a gyro that I know is going to be dope? Yes.
Yeah. Oh man, you cannot. If and sorry to those who didn't grow up in Chicago, and really they're called gyros, right? So then I know that gyros is like they're the professional, the right way to say it. But if you didn't call them gyros, or gyros, or gyros, if you didn't call it any of those variations, you did not grow up in Chicago, because that's, I don't know, many times I ended up drunk in Greektown, and I'd be in line, and there'd be this brother in front of me. He'd be like, "Man, I'm about to eat one of these gyros," and I'm like, "Okay, I'll go with gyros. Gyros is good too." And pizza puffs. I mean, that's like those two staples
Pizza
of
puffs,
Chicago.
man.
Like
they don't have them out here. I gave one to my when I went back to Chicago. I went to I actually did a piece in the New York Times about eating in Chicago. You guys should, if you want to look it up, look it up. It's like Dale Talde goes back home and eats in Chicago, and these are like my favorite places to eat in Chicago.
Yeah.
And the Works was one of them. And we went to the Works, and the dude who wrote my cookbook, shout out to JJ Good, he stayed with me at my parents' house.
Dope.
And we went to go eat at these places, and these guys are from the East Coast, and I was like, "Hey man, we got to get a pizza puff." My wife's like, "What's a pizza puff?" I'm like, "What?
You don't know what a pizza puff is? Oh,
and we got one, and it delivered, and it was as good as I remember it being.
Yeah.
But these people were blown away. They're like, "Is this just a flour tortilla with a bunch of stuff in it? That's pizza.
Pizza innards.
Pizza.
Yeah,
it's exactly what it is. It's exactly what it is, and it's delicious.
It's
They all co-signed it. They're like, "Yo, this is dope."
Yeah, it's funny because the pizza puff, it's so good that when I go to like a Chicago burger joint, right? And for us in the suburbs now, it's this place called Margie's. So shout out Margie's. So we pull in, and I'll get the order. I'll text the wife and be like, "What do the kids want?" So I walk in, and guy George, because you're not Greek if your name's not George.
Of course not.
George is like, "Oh, my friend, what do you same order?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And then I don't know why I keep ordering the pizza puff, because like I've ordered enough food that we have plenty.
It's a side dish.
You have to just order it though.
It's a side dish.
Just throw in a couple pizza puffs. And it's like, damn it, man, I shouldn't have done that. But you can't not order it. So
it's a side dish.
Yeah. So to all my folks, I know on Twitch, like we have a lot of like West Coast fam and people that follow us. So if this pandemic shit ever fucking dies down and you guys can travel out here, I promise you, if you come and hang out, I will buy a fucking box of pizza puffs and we'll just eat until we fall asleep. Yes, absolutely.
You will not be disappointed.
So now you going through the journey. You've thought about you're analyzing ingredients and you're sort of putting these things in your head. So you graduate from Maine East. You said Maine East, right?
Yep.
So you graduate from Maine East, and then from there, did you go straight to college? Would you do like
straight to culinary school, man? I took
in New York,
I got accepted to UIC and showed up for the placement exams.
Well, I think Filipinos get automatically accepted to UIC.
They see the last name.
Oh yeah.
They see it, and they're like, "Oh,
it's ethnic. Sure. Let's go. Let's run with it." Yeah.
So I of course got accepted to UIC and took the exams. And my mom came back and she was like, "Do you really want to go to here?" I was like, "No, I thought this would make you happy." And she's like, "No, you should go to culinary school." I'm like,
"Wow,
deal." And then I don't know what it's like now, but getting accepted to culinary school is like it's like going to dog obedience school and then everyone passes. You go to dog obedience school, and no matter how crappy your dog is,
it's participation trophy.
It's a participation trophy.
Yeah.
Back in the day, it was like, hey, you need X amount of time in a real kitchen, and a pulse and tuition. And I think I think the standard is a lot higher now, but that's what I got. That's what I did, and went straight to culinary school. And first time I had been away from home. I was in upstate New York.
On your own, just you?
Just me.
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
Just me. And it was.
You were 18? 18, 19?
I was 18. Wow. I was the youngest in my class by like 7 years.
That's crazy.
At this time, culinary school wasn't like, hey, I want to be on Top Chef or I want to be Emerald. It was just like, it was like a word. It was like there was a lot of dudes in my class 2 dudes who were on the GI Bill. There was tons of burnouts. like 4 or 5 guys who like, hey, this is my last chance at any form of degree. I've been to like 4 different schools, and flunked out of each one and partied out of them. And then went to culinary school, and it was the best thing that could have happened for me. It was there was so much discipline at this. Like, had I gone to a traditional school where they don't, there's no discipline.
Yeah.
This was like going to work every day. Our class schedule was 8 to 4 or 12 to 8. You worked the AM or the PM class, and
Monday through Friday.
Monday through Friday.
Wow.
And you went to culinary, you went to class, and at the end of class, you cleaned the entire kitchen.
Yeah, so take us through that. Like that's a great segue. Like, what? Because I know a lot of people who are in chat or even just out there listening, like, and myself included, we didn't get very smart about food until Food Network and Travel Channel, and I asked stupid questions like, is the remoulade mayo based? Like, I would never ask that. Like, I don't fucking know what that is, man. Like, but I saw it on like a fucking episode of Chopped, and I remember I walked into a restaurant. I was like, yeah, I want the crab cakes with the remoulade. Is the remoulade mayo based? And the waitress was like, I don't know.
Let me check.
Yeah, let me check.
Like,
and then
yes.
The wife was like, why'd you ask that? I'm like, I don't know. I just saw it on Food Network, so I thought it'd be cool. But anyways, so we don't have that experience of like going to cooking school. Take us through that, like a day in the life of like cooking school. Like, what did you do from 8 to 4 or 12 to 8?
Oh, dude, you woke up dumb early at like 7 because that, listen, the food at culinary school, as it should be, is dope. So you got breakfast, and it was like, breakfast was awesome pancakes or like biscuits and gravy, or
and the students were making it. Like, you guys were all making your own.
Students were making it. A sick omelet. It was, but you had to get up early to go do it. And then you went to class, and you probably talked about what it is that you were going to make that day for about an hour or two, and then you made it. And then it was like, okay, now go make it and bring it back to the instructor. And there's probably like 18 to 19 kids in the class. And this teacher, like, okay, for instance, you have to make eggs Benedict, right? And you have to learn how to make a hollandaise sauce because it's a mother sauce.
Yeah.
This teacher had to eat 18 spoonfuls of hollandaise, which has got to be the most disgusting. It's got to be, after 2 times, I feel disgusting.
Yeah, that's gross.
Ate it and told you what was wrong with it or how to fix it, or like, dissected it for you. And then everyone made that. And then you talked about, okay, you kind of dissected it yourself. You talked about like, okay, what could I have done better? And it was a lot of it was the reflection at the end of the school day was a lot more important, because it's like, okay, here's are the mistakes that you made in the entire setup of everything, because it also taught you time management. It said your dish has to be ready by this time. And if you weren't ready, it's like, hey, why? And it's like, oh, I'm not organized. I didn't have my notes. I didn't do this. I drank too much last night. You want to tell the instructor. I'm hungover as a motherfucker. And then you just, then you got done with class. Then you cleaned the entire kitchen, and then you went home.
Worst part of cooking.
It was, but it was also, for me, fundamental. It was kind of the best part, right?
You needed to know that. Yeah.
It taught you discipline. Like, yo, man, if you're messy and you're disgusting and you don't know how to cook and you don't know how to clean up after yourself, it's going to take you that much more time at the end of the day. And it takes everyone. It taught you like this, hey, we all have to kind of be on top of it, or else we're going to be here a lot longer than we want to be.
Sure. Oh yeah, I'm definitely that guy. Like, when I do get these sort of random, and I'm sure I'll make the average Joe. Quincy actually cooks a lot more than like the normal guy. But for me, when I get this like motivation to cook, and it may come like once every month or 2 months or 3 months or whatever, and I'll like look up a recipe and I'll like research and I'll buy all the ingredients, and the prep time is like 3-4 hours, and I'm like, knife skills are terrible, but I'm trying, right? And I cook all this stuff, and the worst part is cleaning up. That is the worst part. Like, I almost think that if I cook, I'm exempt. Right? I'm like, oh, someone else has got to clean this up. I did all the cooking, right? Like, I feel like I'm special, but
Garçon.
Yeah, Garçon, please.
Clean this up.
So that's crazy. So like, I think see, and the wife is commenting in the chat. Tell me about it, because she knows.
Glass of wine always helps. right?
Yeah.
A glass of wine or a drink while you're cleaning always helps.
Yeah, it helps it go by. I typically for a while sometimes I would like binge watch like Kitchen Nightmares. I think Gordon Ramsay's hilarious, by the way.
Yeah.
Just him. It's always scallops done wrong or risotto done wrong. So let me ask you that. That's a random question. It seems like in a lot of cooking shows, like risotto is like the death of people. In Top Chef, that was like a big thing with Calicchio, right? I think it was like someone would make a risotto and they'd get axed. Like, why? Is it because it's difficult to make in a time that you're given, or is it just a difficult dish to make overall? Or
timing of risotto is very hard because you have to like you have to eat it immediately. Anytime it sits, it's even the time you're eating risotto from when you first get like properly made risotto, right? Properly made risotto, when you put it on, it should always be served on a plate. It should never be served in a bowl. It should lay flat, completely flat on a plate.
It probably doesn't get as mushy as fast.
Yeah, and when you move risotto on a plate, it should have a wave to it.
Oh, wow.
That's how loose it should be. But it should also have a little bit of toothiness.
Yeah.
That's like al dente. It shouldn't be completely soft. So kind of like all those things combined. Also in TV, it's like, listen, you make the dish. You know how long it's going to take for that person to get it into like production, to get it from when they made it to a table. You know what I mean? Because they got to cut. Okay, take the dish. They're not ready out there. It sits for a second and then they get it. And in that 5 minutes, that dish is already fucked. You know what I mean?
Wow, that's to see.
But personally, it like, listen, I make risotto. I think I make a damn good risotto, but it's you should always risotto needs to rest. It's like rice. Like when you make rice at home, right? When the alarm goes off,
yeah,
you can't open the lid.
Well, I'm lo-fi, so it's the click of the tick, and then it's done. You're like the orange light is not on, and it clicks. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm my wife. We have a Korean one that
I was gonna say,
it
sounds like a Korean or Japanese rice cooker. Yeah.
Yeah, it has like 70 different types of dances before it starts and tells you it's off.
I'm not living life right.
You can't open up that lid right away after it clicks. You gotta let it rest.
You gotta let it rest.
Same with risotto.
And
same with risotto. You make risotto when you've added your last ladle of stock. You're stirring it around. You added butter and Parmesan or cheese to it, right? You put a lid on it and let it sit there for 5 minutes. Let it do a thing, and then you serve it out. That's how I know it's done.
Yeah.
And the magic time, I think it's like 24 minutes.
Jeez.
Is from start to finish. That's how long risotto should take.
No, then I definitely would lose.
Not a minute longer or less. 24 minutes, and it's done if you're doing it the proper way.
It might take me like 62 minutes. I'm not.
Scallops are. I don't know why people have such a hard time with scallops. Like, get a ripping hot pan, sear it on one side, flip it over, put butter, and then put the butter on top of the scallops and serve it. I don't even love scallops cooked. Like, I like raw
scallop. Yeah, me too.
I love raw scallops.
Yeah, I love raw scallops. It's great. Like, I hate it because I'm probably like not doing justice to like the sushi game, but even just like your sushi restaurant in the Midwest somewhere in the suburbs, and spicy scallop rolls. Those are my favorite.
Nope.
Yeah, I love those. Simple, and like tastes good.
Okay. Dale, we got a question from Simple J. He says, what was the best piece of knowledge you gained food-wise from the Top Chef days that continue to help you today?
That's a good question.
I think one of the biggest things I took away from Top Chef is, there's two, right? One of them is, for me, is that it's never as hard as you think it's going to be. When I catered a wedding my episode was in Chicago. We catered some poor couple's wedding in 24 hours. 300-person wedding in 24 hours. And it was like something like 15 dishes between 4 people. It was a nightmare. It was terrible, and the bride was crying at the end of it.
Oh, jeez.
But we did it. We got a wedding out.
Yeah.
And the second is taste your food. If you're cooking and you're a chef and you're in the industry, even if you're not cooking, right? You say you're just a restaurant owner. It's your job to taste the food.
Yeah, quality control, right?
Always. Yeah. It's like, and everyone needs to taste the food, right? It's not just one person. Every single person needs to taste food. They have to taste everything. I think that's one of the biggest problems of like people who are in the industry who are like numb to like, oh, we're doing a good job. I don't know why people aren't coming in. Is it a good job? Have you sat down and eaten at your own restaurant?
Yeah,
or sent somebody in and have they given you feedback of the restaurant? And I think that's one of the things I take from Top Chef is that I'm pretty good at taking criticism. Yeah. Especially when it comes to my food in the restaurant. Like outside of this world, probably not. I wish I was better in relationships that taking criticism.
One step
but when
at a
it comes to this in my own restaurant, if you're like, hey, I didn't think the chicken was great, let's eat them.
Yeah, let's see why.
Yeah. Why? Tell me why. That cocktail wasn't great. Make me a cocktail. That's the first thing every week that I tell the staff here. If something's not good, the first thing you should do is order one and taste it from the person who made it. And I think there's a lot of parallels in a lot of business with that, right? Like, what's your customer experience? What is the customer's experience with the product that you're either giving to the guest, and how are they receiving it? So that's the biggest thing to me, is because it's all about the guest. It's all about how people interface with what it is that you're trying to give them.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think, and we're in that part of the journey now. So like to really get to that point, because I know a lot of people are already waiting, like, okay, we need to hear some Top Chef dirt, which is, I think it's actually a very interesting perspective about the wedding. Like, I do remember that episode, and I didn't really think about the dynamics that you're catering a wedding in a day.
That was the most brutal. Yeah. No one on Top Chef had, and I don't think to this day had done 2 24-hour challenges like that. So we did one that was the catering the wedding, and then we did Restaurant Wars.
Right after. Yeah.
You have the option. Yeah, you have the option to sleep or not. I was like, what the fuck, man? So we did those back to back, and it was soul crushing. Like, I straight up almost got in a fight with one of the producers, and like, they're like, yo, you need to chill. I'm like, you fucking chill, man.
Oh, man.
I've been up for 36 hours. And it's like, that's why I think there's so much, that show is so, it captures all that rawness, because it's like, the recipe's great, right? I love what I do. I'm opinionated. It's something that's super subjective, right? It's not like a game where someone scores, 5 runs to 4, there's a winner. It's subjective. So there's opinions.
Sure.
So that you can talk about like, oh, I didn't think that was right for them to kick someone off. And it's like, these people are super uber passionate about what we do, and they're talented, and I think they're respected for what they do. So I think that's why Top Chef really nails it. And it's not and I like watching Gordon Ramsay and like the gifts and all the funny videos, but I think that's
a little more, probably a little more staged, you think?
And sensationalized.
Yeah.
There's a lot of setup. There's generally some setups, like, even with that show like Bar Rescue, I catch myself watching that every once in a while.
Sure.
When is the situation where a bar that's not busy is all of a sudden get 100 people walking in the door at the same time, yelling at a bartender for drinks? Like, that's not realistic. That's like setting someone up for drama and failure. But Top Chef, they put you in a situation where they're like, hey, make a restaurant in 24 hours.
Yeah.
That's hard enough, man. You don't need to make it any harder than that.
Man, I'm sure that's everyone's favorite, like, segment of the show, like Restaurant Wars. That's like always, it's always cool to see like people's minds and how they work and how they construct like a menu and then
it's a lot of politics.
Oh, I'm sure.
There's a lot of politics, and there's a lot of ways in hindsight, right? In hindsight, it's like, in the beginning of, when we were forced, I was season 4 first time I went on, right? There wasn't 16 episodes where you can kind of go backtrack, and there was data of like, okay, who went home?
Yeah.
It was a power struggle. And then especially in my season, there were 4 of us who kind of didn't like each other. It was Lisa, me, Spike. It was 3 of us, and we did not like each other, and we got put on the same team. It was a powder keg of disaster. It was a disaster waiting to happen. And it was a disaster. So, in hindsight, it's like, hey, you want to be the executive chef? Go ahead, be executive chef, because the executive chef always goes home. And, that's when I went home.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's a recipe. But I should have seen the warning signs and let that, it was ego. And that's some of the things that
we talked about this earlier, like in our call before we got on, where sometimes you take on that role where you're like, no, I can do this. Like I can change it. When you know that the telling sign of people going home is being the executive chef, more likely than not, you're going to fall on the sword. You're going to die on that hill. But I'm sure in your competitive mind, you're thinking like, in the moment, no, I got this. Right, I'm going to do it differently.
I'm Jordan.
Right, give me the ball.
I'm Jordan.
Yeah, give me the ball. I'm going to score. Right.
Yeah.
And then you woke up and you're wearing a Brad Sellers jersey. You're like, what the fuck did I just do? Why did I shoot the ball? So with that, so we've gone to cooking school. You're now like on this path to being a chef. So you came back to Chicago first, right? Before you went back to New York. So when you came back to Chicago, like what was the whole, like, let's talk about just a real, like, a summary of like your work here, what you try to do as a chef coming out of school. Like, what was your thing?
Yeah. I was just trying to get my chops, man. I was trying to get into the industry and get in where I fit in. I saw, this is before Craigslist, man. You're talking about, I graduated culinary school December of 1998. And this was, dude, you had to pick up a paper to look at the help wanted ad to find a job. Wow. So my first job was like Outback Steakhouse. That's in Skokie, off of, what street is that? It's in that little complex there, across from Leaning Tower, the Leaning Tower Y.
Yeah. That's is that Tui?
Yeah,
that's Tui.
That was my first job.
Yeah. And shout out Outback, guilty pleasure, by the way. Outback. Okay, go ahead.
Man, shout out. They got a good brand.
Yeah.
I work there. I know, like, they do things right, man. But anyway, I was like 19, not even 20. I was 20 and smoking weed before I go to work, and that's not professional. I was just like, whatever. This is a bullshit job. And years later, funny story is that Outback Steakhouse was part of this group that of like chain restaurants that toured New York City, and the person taking them was like, hey, you got to go to this guy's restaurant. His name's Dale Talde. It's a hip restaurant in Brooklyn, and Brooklyn's the hottest thing right now, and he's doing something right. So these guys all came in, they got a couple appetizers, and I told them my story, and they're like, oh, this dude's from Outback, and he's like some dude from, like, I don't know, total Midwest, Wichita, Kansas. He's like, hi, nice to meet you. And I was like, hey, dude. And I told this story. I was like, I used to like straight up sit in my Toyota my like 88 4Runner in the parking lot, smoke a joint, and then roll into work. And I was the worst line cook there. And you guys fired me, and for good reason. I was definitely not ready to work there. And he's just like, like this shock over his face. And I was like, no, it's all good. I'm good. I hope I didn't damage the brand too much.
Yeah.
But I worked there for like 3 months because my mom's like, you need to get a job. And then I worked at a place called Vong. It was on Hubbard and Chicago. And not Chicago. Hubbard and what's the House of Blues is on Wabash? No.
Wacker? No, wait.
House of Blues is on.
I can't even remember myself.
So this restaurant was on Hubbard, and it was on the corner of it. And it was with John George. And I started working there, and that's where I found like really good friends of mine that I'm still friends with this day. I was part of the opening crew there. Then shout out to Jeff Felsenthal. He was my first chef there. And that was like a real taste of like fine dining and casual fine dining. So then I went on to work at a place called Naha with Carrie Nahabedian. Her restaurant was around for like 20 years. Now she has a place called Brendil and Costali. I went to open up Spring that was right next to Sub T on North Avenue.
Yeah, I remember that place. Mm-hmm.
That in the bathhouse. Worked at Sushi Samba, and then I landed. Yeah, man, I remember that back in the day. And then I worked at a place called Opera with KDK was the restaurant group. And then I fell out of work, and that's when I was like, oh, yo, sign from God, I'm going to go to New York.
Wow. And that's when that next chapter of the journey began. You went to New York.
Yeah, man. I booked a flight. I had a friend from Sushi Samba. I had met a friend. She was a pastry chef there. And I was like, she's like, you can crash on my couch while you're, checking if you want to move to New York. So I, booked a ticket, and I booked some reservations to eat at some restaurants, and then did, in our business, you do a trail or a stage where you go into a kitchen and you kind of work for the day to see if it's a right fit. So I got some stages set up in the city, and I ate at some restaurants I always wanted to eat at, a place called John George and a place called Danielle. And And then my friend took me out to some restaurants, WD-50, Spice Market with Jean George, and immediately I was like, I'm hooked. Like,
Yeah, this is it.
This is where I need to be.
Yeah,
this is
the
Mecca.
place.
This is Mecca. Yeah, this is Mecca for me. So then, I checked on websites, and that's when I started to get more savvy with the internet and computers and trying to find listings of jobs. So I found a restaurant group called Star Restaurant Group. Chef was Morimoto, Iron Chef Morimoto.
Yep.
And I sent my resume to that group. Well, a physical resume, or fax them once a week for like 3 months.
Man,
and then I would call the
consistent.
restaurant. Yeah, I called the restaurant in Philly. I was like, "Yo, I hear you." And I called during like fucked up hours, like during service, and they're like, "Who is this?" Click. But I was like, I finally got it in. Someone called me back and said, "Would you like to fly you to Philly to try out for this sous chef for New York?" And I was like, "Awesome." And I got the job, and I moved to New York for nothing, for pennies, and that started kind of my career.
Wow, that's crazy.
Out here, at least on the East Coast, yeah.
That's so. Yeah, Morimoto. Let's talk about that for a second. So I know a lot of people who are foodies and who became foodies because of TV, like myself. Iron Chef that's another staple, right? Like that. When you started watching Iron, you were hooked. You were like, you had this like the show, and these guys are battling out, and they're calling out ingredients, and they're like being creative with the ingredient that's a star ingredient, and it was a great formula. How was like? So you worked as like his sous chef, or like what was the relationship?
I came on board as a sous chef, and in this beautiful like $13 million restaurant, I moved to New York, and there was like, it was still under construction. It was an incredible experience. Working with him was insane. I mean, quite literally insane.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy's like.
Is he like a machine or what? Like that? I feel like.
Well, when you would watch him cook, when you would watch him make sushi, it was like everyone was on pause, and this dude was hitting 8x on the DVR. He was. I mean, his hands are that fast.
Yeah,
It's just so fast, and you're like, dude, this dude, and the sushi bar has so much chops. And he's. I mean, he gave me my start. He's an amazing dude. But it just was like a really weird time to be in New York City. There was, a reviewer named Frank Bruni, and there was this whole big thing about like, they have to get a great review, and we didn't get a great review.
Oh, from this particular reviewer, or just in general?
He was, when I was in New York, he was the end all be all. His name was Frank Bruni, and Michelin stars, all the other, San Pellegrino, 100 best restaurants. In New York City, it's about getting that great review.
That review from him.
Bruni.
Wow.
It's it. He's the New York Times reviewer is the most powerful reviewer in the country. Single-handedly.
That's crazy.
So it was this big deal. And then when we didn't get a good review, it was like, I was working 18 to 19 hour days. I would get to the restaurant at 7:30, 8 a.m. And I would leave the restaurant 11:30 midnight.
Wow.
And I did that for 3 months straight.
And was it because
straight.
Like that?
That's what everybody was working. Everybody was working that hard.
Yeah.
Sushi guys, people would fall off. You'd never see them again.
Jeez.
It was that hard, and we weren't even open yet, and we were working those hours.
That's so crazy.
It was insane. Then when we got open, we get a day off. It was insane amount of work that was getting done. And then when we didn't get that review, it was terrible. And then people started quitting, but it gave me my opportunity to move up in the ranks.
Yeah. So you stuck around. So you stuck around to be able to sort of pick off where people just said, "I give up," and so you sort of ascended through that way.
Yeah, and I think that everyone saw my work ethic, and that's when I was like, all right, this is cool. I get New York right now. I get it. It's not as different. It's not different, right? It's all the same.
Yeah.
But my time in, I'd been at Morimoto for like a year and a half, and I love Morimoto to death, but the dude has a temper and was like kicking rice cookers and throwing spoons at people. And I'm like, yo, I'm not doing this.
Shout out to short-tempered Morimoto. It looks like I'm not. I don't want to make him mad.
Who knew?
I'm not. Listen, I'm not trying to put anyone on blast, but
this
is also a long time ago where this was acceptable, right? This kind of shit isn't acceptable anymore.
I can imagine.
We definitely don't. Yeah, we don't live by we don't live by these rules anymore. So went to Budokan, which is a sister restaurant that was wildly successful. $20 million years. It was just crazy. We would do 1,100 covers on a Saturday night. It was crazy. The numbers were insane, and the work environment was equally as insane. But then I got my opportunity to go on Top Chef from there.
Oh, so it's funny. I'm like I try to keep an eye on the chat, and I apologize because I know, especially when I'm doing podcasts. So it's kind of the dynamic is when I do DJ sets, I can actually kind of pay attention and like I'll shout people out. They do so with a podcast where I'm having a conversation with you. I'm trying to be in the conversation, so I'm like eye contact, all that. So I do miss a lot of stuff in the chat. So number one, I apologize to people out there that are like asking questions and making statements, making jokes, which is great. I think they're hilarious. I do want to shout out my guy who did type in the chat, Dave Park, Park Foods. So this guy, he's a food distributor. So he, a good friend of mine, he has his own brand of nori. So he was like, yeah, tell Dale if he needs nori, man, let me know. So I'm like, that's cool. Yeah, you guys need to connect offline, and there's something there. Great. Yeah, so I'll link you up with him. But
quick question from DJ CMC.
Yeah,
he wants to know if he can still turn a potato. Tournay.
If I can still tournay?
Yeah.
No way. No way, dude.
Well, what is that?
So DJ CMC, he's a cook as well. So
7-sided vegetable. So you take like a potato, and you cut it into a block, and then you take those sides and you shave equal 7 sides. It's real. I've never been able to do it even when I was like nimble.
Fucking tournay. That shit sounds
Tournaying is like having handles playing ball. Either you got it or you don't.
Oh wow.
It's like my opinion. You either got good handles or you got good vision and you can drop dimes. But tournaying is not. I was never gifted with tournaying. I think my knife skills are ill. I think I got ill knife skills. But that is one of them that I just cannot do.
You can't do.
We
used to do this back in the day with kids, and it was like, who has the best tournay? And mine would look like, instead of looking like a perfect football, mine would look like a football that someone stepped on.
Oh, jeez. I can't even cut potatoes in squares. Fuck, man. Fuck, I love the tournay. That shit sounds fancy.
I don't got those skills like that.
Oh, man. So we've gone through that journey, Morimoto, which I think that was an important piece that some people don't realize, that you kind of came from that school, or that's where that school or train of thought with Morimoto. Yep. So what was your takeaway as you sort of, when you moved away from Budokan, at some point you left or you moved on, like what were some of the key things you learned from working for Morimoto, working in New York? That was kind of your first big deal in New York. And what was your takeaways moving into now, like your own brand and business type deal?
Well, the person who owns Star Restaurants, who owns Morimoto and Budokan, is this gentleman named Steven Starr. And he comes from the club world. He's a music guy.
Like a promoter?
He's a promoter.
Yeah.
He was a promoter, and he brought the Rolling Stones to Philadelphia for the first time, Madonna to Philadelphia for the first time.
Oh, wow.
And then he branched off into restaurants, and he's wildly successful now. But he instilled some things in me, like the whole eating your food. He was like, this is your job to eat the food. I don't care if you don't do anything else here. Your job is to eat the food and make sure the food is good. And I worked at this place for 7 years. And we were eating some of the same dishes day in and day out, 5 days a week.
Like quality checking, like on like real time, you mean, right? Like when you send stuff out.
Yeah. Every dumpling got tasted at this time, and we tasted it with people to make sure that there was up to par. And that's, I think, where some of the success, like those habits were instilled in me. And shout out to him, because I probably wouldn't, he really taught me some amazing life lessons and lessons in business. But I also realized, as much as I love New York, it's the same shit.
Yeah.
It's just in a bigger place, right? It's actually harder. It is harder to do it here in New York, but I think for people who are like, especially cooks who are like, I can't do it in New York, you can do it. As long as you got good technique and you're willing to work hard, you can do it, But I do believe that, New York, if you can make it here, you can make it anywhere. It's because it's so much harder to do it here.
Just and so much for scale, and probably like the competition is a lot stiffer. Pause.
Well, that and the politics of food here in New York are just so much harder.
I can imagine.
It's hard, man. I mean, like, just think of the logistics of opening a restaurant here. It's probably 3 or 4 times more expensive to open a restaurant here. Just so much more competition. I mean, just take your delivery guy. In Chicago, you have alleys. No alleys here in New York. So where are you parking? You're double parking in front of a busy street.
Yeah.
Racking up a ticket. Do you think the company that's delivering your food is paying for these tickets? And they make 30 stops a day. They probably get 15 tickets in a day.
Yeah.
Guess who's paying those tickets?
That's the driver.
You, as a consumer. If you're using this company, they're just passing that on.
They're passing
the
cost to you, yeah, by upping prices or whatever. Yeah.
Of course. So that all that stuff this makes it more, just the thing of the logistics of opening in New York City is just so much harder.
Okay, so here's a random question. Be it that we've now gone from Chicago to New York, so we've drawn some comparisons. Mm-hmm. I think the question people really want to hear, or I want to hear your thoughts on at least. Chicago pizza versus New York pizza. Now, I know you can't compare the two, but if I had to get a Dale Talde review of Chicago pizza versus New York pizza.
Okay.
Let's hear it.
Okay, I'll say this. There's 2 pizzas in Chicago that I think are the illest. Pequod's, Barnaby's.
Oh, Barnaby is nice. The one on
Thin crust
where is that, Sacramento? Where is that? No, Barnaby's.
It's on Caldwell.
Caldwell.
There's one on Caldwell.
Yeah.
My opinion, that's what I like. Right, I like that thin crust party cut, or I like Pequod's. The deep dish for me, it's like, yo, man, like I can eat that once a year. I mean, that's not my thing. I just don't like. I fuck with Pequod's because I think that their crust is actually light and fluffy and it's an actual dough.
Yeah.
But I live in New Jersey now, where there's ill pizza like everywhere. A thin crust grandma slice. If you are ever in New York City, thin crust grandma slice, square pies, you got to get it. If you're in New York City, John's on Bleecker is to me one of the best pies I've ever had. I think John's on Bleecker does it right.
Interesting.
But I'm in New Jersey where they got ill pizza, but honestly, I live out here, man, and I eat pizza I eat pizza a lot out here. So I like the pizza out here. Those are the only 2 that I love. When I go back home, I always get Pequod's sausage, extra sauce, and ranch on the side. Some fat kid shit.
Yeah, ranch is definitely. I'm a big pizza and ranch guy too, man. That's
dude. I'm a pizza guy, ranch guy.
Yeah, you can eat ranch with anything. Jesus. Yeah. So for me, right? So I've had both. I've had New York. I see. The wife says, "I hope you're taking notes," because she wants to go to New York and Jersey and visit some family. So
I got you, man. I got you. Yeah, I got you. I've done a pizza tour. I've done just a specific pizza
tour. Just sounds amazing right now. In general,
we went to some ill pizzerias out here. I mean, and I did it in Jersey. I've done New York. I've done New York, but the ones in Jersey, there's some pizzerias out here that are just next level. Wow. And listen, I've never been to Italy, but I can tell you, I'll put this pizza up against anybody's. Wow. New York's, I think New Jersey and New York, and I know the East Coast, their pizzas are legit. So even if you're like in Connecticut, or if you're in, there's
maybe in Philly.
No, Philly cheesesteaks only.
Philly cheesesteaks only. Okay,
that's it.
Philly's kind of sorry.
Philly's got good pizza. They got what do they tomato pie?
Tomato pie. That's their variation.
Yeah, they call like their Sicilian slices of tomato pie. And it's like fluffy bread and tons of tomato sauce, and then they don't put like melty cheese. They put like pecorino romano, like the grated cheese
fresh
on top.
Grated cheese on top. Yeah,
that's dope.
Yeah. Oh my god. Yeah. Again, I should have never done this episode not eating. What a grave mistake that was, because like I'm trying to pretend that this Jameson cold brew, not sponsored again, but the drink of choice.
Let me tell you, Voltaire, have you had Detroit style pies? Detroit style pizza?
No, I've been to Detroit
Little
3 times.
Caesars.
No, Little Caesars. I have not.
Not exactly.
I have not.
But Detroit style pies. I'll put. This is hard from some dude who reps Chicago. I'll put Detroit right behind New York before Chicago.
Ooh. Whoa.
I will, man. I think that their pizza game is strong. It's controversial.
I gotta put the Jabba laugh in there. That's
Wow.
That's controversial. Yeah, that's shots fired.
Yeah, shots fired, man.
For real.
People on blast, people on warning.
But yeah, I mean, so I get it, right? Because I think I grew up on Luz. So like to me, and this goes back to the story how we talk about being Filipinos growing up. So my best friend, Jewish kid. So I grew up on the north side. So I grew up like Devon and Fairfield, Devon and California. So like you think of that demographic. There's like the whole Indian side on one side of Devon, and then the whole Jewish side on the other, right? So he took me to the original Luz in Lincolnwood, right? Is that Lincoln? I forgot what street that is. But he took me to the original Luz for the first time, and I had this pie. And the fact that I was like eating with a fork and knife, I couldn't calculate. I said, what is this? Like, why am I eating with a fork and knife? But the pizza was delicious. And I think I'm biased. So like to me, Luz is the standard for me. The Chicago classic, thick sausage patty, butter crust, like, that's my thing. But New York pie is great. Like I've had some really good New York pizza, and you can't compare the two. Obviously, I think that's the consensus. I don't think.
Yeah, they're two different animals, but bread, sauce, cheese, right? Or dough, sauce, cheese.
Basics,
that's
right?
the basics, right?
Yeah.
And I'm saying, man, I do believe it, and I know it. And this is why the butter crust to me is more of a pie crust, a traditional pie crust.
Yeah.
It's crispy, but there's no fluff. There's not that added like tenderness to it, like where it's like an actual dough. It's more like a pie.
Yeah. Dense, no give to it.
Yeah. Listen, man, I don't hate. I like it, right?
Yeah.
But if you're gonna ask me my opinion and what I want to eat, I want to eat that.
Yeah.
I want to eat that all day.
Yeah.
Shit, man, you give me a Luminati's, dude. I'll get some rice on the side of it, and I got a knife and fork already. I'll fuck with some rice and ranch, and I'll make a real meal out of it.
Yeah, you can make rice. I still have not. So this has been on my bucket list, and I haven't done this yet, and I really want to, and maybe I can do it now in my 40s and get away with it. I always wanted to go to Hooters and order like a big pan of wings, and plug in a rice cooker at Hooters. You know what I'm saying? Like just gangster. And then like, imagine that. The wings come out, you fucking open the rice cooker, rice on the plate with the sauce.
Always wanted to do that? Norm.
Oh, you see?
Norm wanted to go to B-Dubs. Norm always wanted to go to B-Dubs and like have that like rice stash and just be like eating wings and then
dude.
Like a rice stash, just like a rice stash right here, right by him.
Yeah, shout out to Norm Rockwell, Pacifics.
If they did that, if B-Dubs had rice, it would be
done.
Titos and aunties and all of us. They would, your mom and dad would be like, let's go to B-Dubs.
Yeah, it would be called Bupalo Wild Wings. That's how you got to pronounce it. That's my dad every time he would talk about like football teams, and he'd be like, "Who won? Is Giant or Bupalo?" Bupalo? I'm like, oh, Buffalo. Got it. Okay, so get back on track. So you've now sort of ventured off onto your own, right? You've done the Morimoto thing. So let's really get to how did you land on Top Chef? Like, how did that work?
So Top Chef was a cold call, man.
Really? On your part, or they called you? You called them, or they called you?
No, you just it was like open auditions and open interviews to get on the show, and they don't do those anymore. You have to apply, and then they call you back. But this was like, hey, there's an open, there's a casting call for a show called Top Chef, and this is season 3, and like it will be at this restaurant. And I just happened when I was working at a restaurant called Budokan, it was down the block from a restaurant called Colicchio, a craft steak. Oh yeah,
Colicchio's Steakhouse, right? Yeah.
So it was down the block from there. So I'm like, why not go in, walk in for an interview, see if I get casted.
Yeah, shot in the dark.
I walk into that restaurant. These guys are closing up the briefcases, walking out, and I was like, you guys all done for today? I missed it. And they're like, nah, we'll do one more.
Wow.
Sit down and talk to me. And while I'm being interviewed, some other person comes in and they're like, we're not doing it anymore. We're all done. And I talked to them for like 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and they're like, "We love you. Can you come back tomorrow for a real
actually
interview?"
audition? Yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, "Okay, sure." So then they're like, "Come meet us at this hotel," and I was like, "This is like a snuff film." Like, go to this. They're like, "Go to this hotel room and knock on the door," and it was legit a hotel room.
I'm here for the gangbang. I'm like, oh
yeah,
no,
I was like, oh my god, you'll never see me again. Like, I'm gonna be in a foreign country in a leather G-string making mocktails for some dude in Dubai.
Oh boy, don't get Quincy started. He's getting excited.
Well, I go into this room and there's a camera and everyone's set up, and we end up talking for 3 hours, and they're like, 2 hours, and they're like, "We love you. We'll call you if and then a couple months later, they're like, "You've been selected to go to LA, and we do a real interview in LA." And you go into a room and there's like 20 people, and they're all staring at you and all firing questions at you. And the next day I flew back. We flew into LAX. They picked me up. They take me to this hotel. They said, you're sequestered. You cannot leave the hotel.
Did you sign like an NDA, or did you already sign an
100%.
NDA? Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
So then I'm sitting there, I do the interview, and then I land back in New York. They put me in. I didn't even get to see LA at all.
And you just hotel and back to the airport.
Hotel, you're done with the interview. We have a plane for you right back out. So get on a plane right back out. And then that night they called me and said, "Hey, you've been selected to go on Top Chef." And I was like, "Oh shit!" Didn't really know what it meant. That was
at the
cool.
time, yeah, I'm sure you're probably like,
no
"This is a free roll." You just strolled into that shit, and
and then they're like, "Oh, it's in Chicago." I'm like, "Oh, word,
perfect,
free trip."
You like free trip to Chicago? Let's roll, right? Real quick, I'm gonna pause for a second. I just want to say what's up because I know a lot of people have been gifting subs, and I appreciate y'all. I know John Santos, you're out there. Thanks for the gifted subs. Christian, thanks for the gifted subs. Simple J, thanks for the gifted subs. I know I'm missing them, but I'm gonna hit you with the drop. The
Hoy Luck Club.
One time, Hoy Luck Club. So, anyways, I'm sorry. I had to make sure I'm addressing my chat.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Or actually, there's my name's really long. I had a question.
My name's really. I love that.
Better Steakhouse, Peter Luger's, or Ponderosa?
Wow.
I saw that. I was like, I had to.
I'm value driven all the way, man. I'm actually gonna go to Sizzler. Sizzler. No, man, I live by Ponderosa, man. You got to go to Ponderosa.
Oh yeah.
Salad bar is legit.
I grew up on the same. Is it Crawford? The Ponderosa and Crawford.
I grew up the one that was in. I don't know if that was Waukegan. There's one on Waukegan, I think, near Niles.
Yeah, dude, Ponderosa, man. Shout out Ponderosa. Jeez.
There's still a couple. They're still around. Apparently.
I've been to one recently. Location. So they have one in Wisconsin. So we went to Wisconsin Dells. We took the kids to Kalahari, so like the water park, right? So we drove up there. I think this was like sometime last year, and so we went up there and we went to Ponderosa, and it definitely was not the same experience, right? Because like I'm now fucking 42. I watch a lot of Food Network, right? So I'm like, okay, right? Like walk in there and I'm like looking at the food, like, oh, that's not fresh. No, that meat's overdone. Like, here I am, some fucking prude, but I still ate a ton of fucking rolls because they just kept bringing them out, and the rolls were like delicious. But it was Ponderosa. It's just like it's just like a Old Country Buffet. Like you thought back in the day, Old Country Buffet was like the next best thing, like all you can eat food. But it's disgusting. But it's good at the same time. Like I don't know.
Yes, right. You have to like you have to preface it, right? It's disgusting, but it's super nostalgic, and that's why I love it. I love it. I love it for that sense. I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of feeling. There's a lot of food that gives me those types of feels. Yeah. Like I tell you, man, the French silk pie at Baker Square.
Oh, still good.
Still
good. French silk pie.
I still love it. Right?
Yes.
Is it the best pie you've ever had? No, but it's pretty damn good.
It's good though.
And there's I don't even know of a Baker Square anymore.
There is in the suburbs. We have a few. It's funny because like I actually had eaten there once, so I've never sat down and eaten in Baker Square, right? Because like Baker Square to me is like you drive in, you're like headed to a family party, so you drive in and you order a bunch of pies and you walk in, you're like, let me get 2 French silks, let me get 2 banana creams, you grab the pies and you leave. I actually ate there once. It was a while back, And I sat down, just all like a bunch of like retirees, like old people eating like liver steaks.
Always,
yeah, just liver steaks, all liver steaks and onions, liver and onions. And I'm like, oh man, maybe this is why I don't eat here. But I mean, it was okay. But Baker Square is definitely French soak pies. That's staple.
Yeah,
pie.
Wasn't it owned by somebody else?
Baker Square?
Yeah. What was it called before that? Like back in the 80s. What was it called?
I only knew it as Baker Square.
Yeah, I don't know if there was another.
I only knew it as that.
I mean, there could be. I could be missing it. But okay, so Top Chef. So now you're on the show. So I think these are where a lot of people were actually really wanting to dig in a little bit. So
yeah,
talk us through that experience. Just doing the show, like obviously the very aggressive schedule.
Yeah, I mean it's an insane schedule, right? It's when we first landed. Just give you some. This is like I think this would kind of give you the nutshell of like how the rest of the. This is the first day we landed, right? Was on season 4. It was Geno's East. We went to the Geno's East in downtown, and it was. We all landed. We all came straight from the airport with our stuff in vans. 16 16-person passenger vans.
Wow.
And they said, okay, we're gonna all meet it. You guys are gonna get lunch. So I'm like, oh, cool. We're gonna ease into this. We walk into the Geno's East and there's cameras, and I'm like, they're not easing us into this.
Yeah, this is something different
now.
Yeah.
So we're in Geno's East. We're eating. There's cameras. Tom and Padma walk in. They say, welcome to Chicago, da-da-da. You guys are the next round of Top Chefs. We're like, oh, cool. We're feeling ourselves. We're like feeling like, yo, I'm dope. And then they're like, grab a coat and you're gonna cook right now. And I was like, oh shit. So then we were eating, like, people were drinking beers and we're like, uh-oh, and eating deep dish pizza. We went straight to the kitchen, and it was like the quick fire was make a deep dish pizza.
Oh.
And I was like, I know. I've never made one before, but I'm like, listen, that I think as being a chef, you can reverse engineer things. I was like, I know how this is made.
Yeah.
And mine ended up being pretty good. But that process from the plane, I think I landed around like noon. We didn't end that shooting schedule. The end of the show was the judging of the quickfire was done at the house that we were going to stay at.
Yeah.
That ended at like 12:30.
Wow. So
we
12 hours,
whoever
basically.
Flew from whoever flew from LA or SF. I flew from New York, so it's like an hour and a half, 2-hour flight. But some of these people traveled 5 hours to get to, and then had to go right into a cooking.
Oh, jeez.
So, dude, their day was like a 17-hour day. My day was probably like the same, because I had to go catch the flight.
Yeah.
It was a long day, and that really was like, yo, this is for real. This is no game. They aren't playing games with this. This is like an aggressive shoot schedule. And then it's like 1 day on, 1 day off, 1 day on, 1 day off. But it was like, you would, call times were varied, but like, and that was really hard is call times varied. So it's like, oh, what's your call time? 7 a.m. Your call time's 9 a.m. And like in all in kind of TV and movies, it's hurry up and wait. So you get all ready to get out.
Get you there and you're just sitting around.
And you wait for like 2-3 hours and you're like, dude, what the hell? Why did we get up so early?
Yeah, that's
and that was,
that's nuts.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, that's nuts. I mean, I just like you don't, everything to us as consumers when we watch the show, like we only see the show, right? The final product. We don't see all of the stuff that goes on behind the scenes, like how much you're hurrying up and waiting, like you're just kind of sitting there, or you guys are not sleeping.
There's not, and just the and I don't know if this is eased up, but the disconnect from life. So no cell phone, no wallet, no keys, no computer.
Man.
So for however long you're there, that's it.
So how long was that period of time for you?
5.5 weeks.
Of zero contact.
You could call people and talk to people, but it would be recorded over. It'd be
recorded.
They
just make sure you didn't break the NDA, right? In terms of disclosing any.
That you didn't you're like, yo, I have a recipe look up a recipe for this for me. I have a thing tomorrow. That you're not.
I got a challenge. Let me get some Indian cuisine or something. Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Yeah. But you end up finding ways around it. Like if I needed a recipe, I knew that I could if I needed an idea of ratio for something, like okay, I don't know how to make something baked. You go to the baked goods section and you find like on flour, you will say, okay, I need a biscuit recipe. And you'd be like, okay, it's on the back of a bag.
Oh shit, that's funny.
I could doctor it up. Here you go.
Oh, that's fucking hilarious. I didn't even think about that.
That's what you would end up doing. You would, it's not, listen, I would be the Houston Astros. If you're not cheating, you're not trying, bro.
Oh,
if you're not cheating, you're not trying.
That's a sensitive subject for people, but I mean, I get it. You're right. I think
you know what I'm saying? I'm trying to get a leg up on everybody.
Play to win, right? That show is about play to win, right? So
it is, man, and no one's monitoring. And then they started realizing what we were doing after a while. And I was like, too late for me,
dude. That would have been if I was on Top Chef. That would have been me. Like I would have been straight making recipes from like a box, like in Whole Foods, like pancakes. Cool, let's do it. That's all I can do.
But that's the thing is, I don't need to know the recipe. Yeah. I just needed to understand ratios.
Yeah, ratios of like ingredients.
Ratios. I just needed a ratio. I could doctor it up any way I wanted it, but if I needed the base recipe for like a biscuit, and I'm not a baker, you need to understand ratios.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, it's 1 part butter, 2 parts flour, 1 part liquid, and 2 eggs. Okay, I got that. And a couple bumps of baking soda, baking powder. Okay, I got it. But that was like so foreign to me, some of that stuff. So that we started to learn how to like bend the system a little bit. Like, and they never gave us any alcohol. Never gave us any hard alcohol on the show. It's always sponsored by beer. It was like a wine company and beer, right?
Oh, so there was no like whiskey or nothing. Like, so wait, how did you?
In the kitchen, they have a bunch of alcohol.
Oh.
So in your knife kit, you would go around, you'd go and you would grab the bottle makers on your way out from like doing a quick fire, jam it into your knife kit, wrap your apron around it, and walk home. And all of a sudden, you're like, it's like prison. Like you're the life of the party. Everyone's hanging out in your room because you got a bottle. You got a bottle of
make. Oh, that's fucking hilarious. That's
we would
funny.
do that all the time. The kid, and then that's when that's when the culinary producer would be like, all right, listen, we looked through the whole tape and no one used whiskey yesterday. Why have I replenished the whiskey 3 times already?
That's fucking hilarious. Yeah, you're like, I don't know what do you mean?
No one snitched. It was like real prison style. No one snitched. Everyone's like,
that's dope.
He fell.
That's fucking hilarious.
It must have broke. The bottle must have broke.
Yeah. I mean, in the frenzy, quickfire, you might have knocked it off the shelf or something, right? Dude,
that's like fucking... those are definitely like things that we did that like production. Like if you wanted to go to bed early, which was always the goal, right? To be rested and in the morning, right?
Yeah.
When there was 18 people and only like 3 culinary producers, if you weren't first to do your interview for that day, you could be last.
Yeah, you had to wait for other people.
That could be 3 hours later after you're tired as hell, right?
Oh, jeez.
So what I would always do is I'd walk up to a producer and be like, I fucking hate that guy. And they'd be like, oh, do you have something to say? Because they want to hear the juicy shit. They're like, oh, what do you have to say about him? I go, let's do it on an interview. Just make me first.
Oh, look at the
and then they get you in they schedule you as the first interview for this thing, and then you'd be like, so why are you mad at so and so? He's like, I'm not really mad at him. I just want to be first on this interview so I can go to bed early. And then you would go. Then they've already scheduled you in, so they can't kick you out.
They can't change it at that point. Yeah,
they can't change it. So I would, they would only fall for that so many times.
Oh, but that's hilarious.
It's one of those leg up things that you would always be like, listen, man, I don't want to be awake till 3 a.m. and then have to turn this around at 9 a.m.
See, this is the shit that we don't know anything about, which is hilarious, man. I think that the fact that you guys are sneaking liquor and the politics game behind getting the interview done because you get more sleep. I mean,
the first time that there was halfway through the season when our first time I was there, when they wanted to spice everything up, we came home and there was a fully stocked bar.
See, I was gonna say, like at some point the producers got to realize that in order to get some good material, you got to introduce liquor, right? I think that's the best way to do it.
Yeah, it went terribly south that first night. Geez. We were like, it was like starved chimps in a cage. We were just like frothing at the mouth, like, give me some booze. I'm tired of drinking wine and beer. And everybody, I mean, it was a crazy house. And then this dude, Andrew D'Ambrosi, who's a friend of mine now, he didn't do well on the challenge. And somehow we got talking about it. And I was like, man, you should have got home. And he's like, what? I was like, man, that dish you made sucked. And then he like got in my face. He was like, say it again. I'm like, I did say it. That dish sucked, bro.
Oh, man.
And this is after like drinking like a bottle of whiskey between us. And he was like going to throw me out of he was like bigger than me. He was going to throw me out of a window. And like, there's one person that's our wrangler, that's kind of like monitoring everything. And he was like, if you guys don't stop, I'm going to straight up call security to get you in here and kick both of you guys off this.
Dude, that's hilarious.
I'm not fending you away and trying to fend you away while there's like 6 other drunk assholes above here doing God knows what. Like,
yeah, they had to pick their fights. Oh my God. Oh, so Dave's putting a comment here. Chiarello fight.
Oh yeah. That was real shit.
He said, ask about that fight. Is that something you can talk about?
So this dude, man, I got death threats over that.
Wow.
I had death threats over that.
That's
so
serious.
This dude, yeah, I don't know, man. People are serious. People like, reality TV. People are like, I don't know, man. I mean, I think it shows the power of it, and how good the show does.
Yeah, how it influences people. Yeah.
Yeah, man. If you didn't love the show, you wouldn't be this passionate about it. To send me something on Facebook said, if I see you on the street, I'm going to shoot you in your face.
Wow.
Okay. So this dude was just being such a dick, and he was he was just a dick. And he was like we're established. Some of us were established chefs, obviously not as old as he was, but he was like, okay, if I want to pick you on my team, you go do all these things so I can see who's the best out of you. It's like, yo, man, this isn't like 7th grade tryout for basketball or JV squad. Like, like, you know what we can do. If you know what we can do, then just pick one of us. So anyway, he was kind of being a jerk. And do you know those racks? It's called a speed rack. It's a rack that has sheet pans on it where you put product in and you roast things on them.
Yeah. So
it was like a mad dash. I was already on someone's squad. We were all kind of bitching and moaning how this dude sucked. And this speed rack had a bunch of these pans on it. And I went to go grab the pan back. And he was standing like right behind me. And in kitchens, you say behind.
Sure,
like,
yeah.
Anywhere in restaurants, you say behind. Behind. He didn't say behind. So I'm standing there and it kind of jammed and I pushed it again and I went back and I almost hit him with my elbow. And he was like, you need to watch yourself.
Oh, shit.
Said that to me and I was like, what the fuck is this dude? I don't know you, bro.
Green light.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I was like, ding, ding. I was like, this fucking dude. And then I walked up to him and I was like, you got something to say to me? He's like, I think you should watch where you're going. I go, and then it just went off. Then I just went off. I'm like, bro, you don't know who I am. You don't know where I come from. You don't know anything about me. Don't talk to me that way. You know? And it turned into some shit. And man, did it blow up. People were fucking heated over it. I still get shit. People still like you said, people still talk about it. I'm like, hey man, that was also a long time ago. And then like I won this on that, I think on the season before. Oh, on the season after, on All-Stars, when I was on All-Stars, I won a trip to Napa. And they're like, oh, you won a trip to Napa. You can go to these amazing restaurants, like Michael Chiarello's restaurant. I'm like, pass.
You're like, I'm straight.
And his restaurant was delicious. I'm sure his restaurant was delicious, but I was like, fuck that dude, pass. I'll spend your money somewhere else.
Oh, that's fucking hilarious. Well, I'm sure the chat's like, yeah, fuck that guy too. Chicago stand up one time, fuck him. So
try to, man.
Hey,
especially for like you know, he saw a young Asian kid, what he thought was a young Asian kid, and maybe he thought that I wasn't gonna say something back to him,
sure,
that I was gonna be like, like, oh no, I don't want any trouble, whatever.
Yeah.
Nah, I wasn't playing that shit. I was like, come on, man, you're not gonna punk me out on
TV, not
TV like
yeah,
that.
not that way.
Think that you're gonna get away with it. So I don't know. I mean, listen, it was a long time ago, and look up the dude because karma's a bitch.
Yeah, well, so one of my mods, shout out to my mods, Tickle My Soul. Shout out to all my mods, by the way. Matsura, artist, Q, obviously my moderator. D Double was one of the mods as well. So Tickle My Soul was one of my mods from the Bay, was saying that he really is a dick in person. So
I mean, listen, man, you are who you are, right? I mean, if listen, the first time I was on Top Chef and I was an asshole, they don't make you say shit. You're an asshole. And I was an asshole on the show. And I got taught a really big lesson. When you get on TV and you get to, and I think it's one of those things where you don't, it's a really unique perspective on who you are as a person.
Sure.
Because you don't get to, not often do you get to see how other people perceive you, right? So I was, able to watch my mom be in a room with my mother as she watched me act this way.
Be an asshole.
And to see disappointment in her face was like,
yeah,
that sucks.
Yeah.
You need to change. There's something about you that you don't like that you need to change. So go get some help. Solid 2.5 years of therapy does some,
does wonders.
It does work.
Yeah.
You do work. And I did some work on myself, and I think I made me a better person. So
that's dope. I mean, I think that's the toughest part. Like, I think especially if you're somebody who's driven and is very opinionated and will go to the death for your opinion. Like, I think I'm right, you're wrong. It takes a bigger person to like, and maybe sometimes it takes like your mom or somebody else who can tell you, no, that's not you. Or there's something up, right? It takes a big person to admit when they've made those mistakes and then have to, reconcile those mistakes, right? And whether it's therapy or, for me, it's eating. I eat my problems away. That's how we do it.
Me too.
Yeah, man.
I stress eat.
Yeah.
But
man, jeez.
it's like, I think it was very unique to watch. It's literally that out of body experience of saying, okay, like, how are people perceiving you, and do you like that person that they're seeing?
Yeah.
And is that you?
Is that you, right? Are you giving them you, right? And
is that you? And that was a tough pill as well. I was like, you know what? At times that was me, and it wasn't an act. Crazy's crazy. Like, there was, it was funny. There's a moment where, like, we did these things called Top Chef tours, where, like, you went on the show, you would go fly to a city, and they had this whole, like, stage built up and, like, this kitchen, and you would make a couple dishes, and you would banter with another Top Chef that was on it.
Yeah.
Well, I'd done a couple of these, and you get paid from them, and in the entertainment world, like, I guess, like, a lot of bureaucracy with getting paid, right? So I was like, yo, man, I did a bunch of these. Where's my money?
Yeah.
So, I contacted the person that was like, hey, what's up with this? And they're like, hey, we're checking back with billing, seeing what's going on. And then I just lost my shit. I was like, you guys aren't even picking up my phone calls, you're not releasing an email, and I see your ass on Facebook. You're on. And you're not answering. You're on. So it means that you're on the computer.
Yeah. And so you're taking it as like he's online. Fuck you. Like,
yeah.
I'm not
he's
paying.
online. Fuck this dude. I'm not answering.
Right.
So I called that person. I'm like, did you think this was a game?
Oh.
Did you think do you think I'm not crazy?
You hit him with the Chappelle.
You think that I'm fucking crazy. I will go up to 30. I will go up to 30 Rock and start moving some fucking furniture if you don't have my fucking paycheck.
Oh man.
And they were like, dude, I had to apologize a lot for that. But, to their credit, man, within 30 minutes, there was an intern in the car sent to my with a handwritten check. They're like, here you go. Can you stop harassing everybody now? I'm like, yeah, I'm sorry.
You're like, my bad. My bad. Let me cash this check.
But yeah, I was like, yo, I'm gonna cash this check now.
Yeah, my bad. Hey, man, you know what? Dude, if you don't have any moments like that, if any of us don't have any moments like that, then God bless you. I mean, I know I've had some blow up moments, and I've had to eat that humble pie, right? I mean, it's just...
Yeah, well, you got to apologize. And, it's part of life. And hopefully, as you get older, it's less than. And, it's you, especially as a business owner, it's like, I've learned that it's like, it's your employees' wealth. They're the only real gauge of your success when it comes to your employees, when it comes to success in the business, right? Yeah. Obviously money, right? But how happy they are in their job and how successful they are, that's a direct, that kind of is like a direct feed into how successful the business is.
Yeah, for sure. Okay.
If they're unhappy, then you're not doing your job.
Right. It's a reflection of your performance, right? That they're not happy.
Right.
So I think we'll ask one more question for Top Chef, and we'll sort of move on to moving into like the current Dale, because I know everybody, even the build up to the episode was, everybody wants to know about Padma and Tom, and
you're right about to ask that.
Right. Yeah. So they want to know, like, because obviously for consumers like us who watch the show,
sure,
they give off a certain feel or dynamic of how they are. I know for me, every time I watch, I'm like, yo, I know Padma. If she don't like you, you're fucked. Like that's what I gather. Like, cause I see them when they go to the judges table and they're about to pick someone to eliminate, and I know Padma don't like that person. I'm like, dude, you're fucked. You're fucked. If Padma doesn't like you, it's over.
I think, and I love that people pull that out of the show. I think it's awesome, but the show is really about the food. It's 100% about, is this dish the worst dish? Then you go home. It's not about
politics.
It's not politics. They cannot like you, but they don't play that. It's really about, especially every time I've been on, it's like when I got kicked off, I was like, "Yep, that dish sucked." Did it suck as much as someone else's? That's
beg to differ.
Subjective. Yeah, I beg to differ. But obviously, they thought it was worse than that dish. But listen, Tom and Padma are ultimate professionals. I said, this is when I knew Padma knew her shit. I made a dish, and I did not toast the spices.
Was that like
a really, really, really kind of, you have to have a certain palate to understand, okay, did he toast these spices off correctly?
Yeah.
She tasted that dish and was like,
she picked it up right away.
She's like, you didn't toast the spices. You didn't toast the cumin off, did you? I was like, I didn't. I thought that searing it in the pan would be enough. And she's like, well, it wasn't. And then went on. I was like, damn. And then with Tom, it's like, he has an amazing palate, and he's technically like, he's like, he'll say, you didn't sear that properly. That's what temperature did you want that piece of meat? Because it was not mid-rare. You're like, fuck.
Yeah, shout out Tom Colicchio, who I feel bad. My one experience with him, other than we had like our anniversary at Kraft in MGM, but or was it our anniversary? We just went to Vegas. Me and the wife, we ate at Kraft. We did the whole experience. But I saw him in MGM, and I remember I was like totally fanboying because that was around the time. I think it might have been close to your season at that time. And I remember seeing him in Vegas at the casino, and I was like staring at him like, yeah, that's Tom. That's him. But then I didn't talk to him. Like, just should have, because he gives up. So again, maybe that's the question, because I think a lot of people who watch the show, they feel intimidated by him a little bit. Like, in terms of like, you see his presence when he like walks around, when you guys are like in the challenge, you guys are cooking, hey, Chef Tom, he comes in and he like starts asking questions. Like, is he really like that commanding of a presence?
No doubt is he intimidating. And it's only because I think in our world of his stature, and with Padma, it was intimidating because after that, like, listen, I was like questioning myself with Padma. I was like, what does she know about food? Yeah. And then she told me about it, and I was like, uh-oh. That was like a real gut check. I was like, yo, she knows what she's doing. And with Tom, it's just like, the restaurants I've eaten at his restaurants, you've seen the awards, you've seen the accolades. Dude's legit, Yeah. And he's been where you were. So that's why it's also intimidating. And like, he came up through the ranks. I mean, this guy was he was he was a line cook, he was a sous chef, he was an executive chef. He's been an owner, now he's an owner. It's like, he did it all. So he knows what he's looking for. And you can't, you can't go through that many seasons of Top Chef. And listen, when I was on Top Chef on season 4, right, there was still line cooks there. They don't do that anymore. They don't fuck around.
Yeah, it's all it's established
role.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like Golden State. It's like Jordan, Pippen, Rodman, Kukoc, Ron Harper, and who was center?
Bill Cartwright?
Who's the Australian guy?
Luke Longley. Yeah.
It was a murderer's row. And now when you go up on Top Chef, dude, if you haven't been nominated for a James Beard Award, if you don't have Michelin stars, if you don't own at least a few restaurants, you're like, yo, who are you? But everybody has those accolades under the belt when you get on Top Chef. That's why it's like, when they start, and it's, this is when you first get on Top Chef and you don't know anybody. So on All Stars, we knew everyone knew each other.
Yeah.
But on season 4, it was like, who are you and where do you work? It was almost like being in prison, where you're like, yo, what are you in for?
Yeah, what are you in for? They're trying to figure out what your credit is, right?
What's your credit immediately? And when people were like, oh, I own a restaurant, and you're like, oh, damn, that dude has a James Beard Award, or that dude was the Michelin star, or he worked for Alain Ducasse or John Jordan. He was Jose Andres' right-hand man at this place. When they start, and you flex like that,
name dropping,
and you do it to intimidate people.
Yeah,
to be like,
absolutely.
Yeah, that's where I come from. Where do you work?
That's what I said when I put this podcast together. Yo, I know Dale, bro. I know Dale, man. I'm gonna get him on. And people are like, oh, come on, bro. I'm like, I know him, dude. I'll tell you what. I don't mean to cut your thought off, but it's seriously. I remember even when the season came out, and I remember I would go to work, and like Top Chef around season 4, I think everybody was really getting into the show at that point. Like one, no one really saw it, then people picked it up. So I remember I would go to work, and we would talk about Top Chef, and I would walk in. I'm like, oh yeah, Dale's my guy, right? No, come on. You don't know Dale. Just because he's Filipino doesn't mean you know him. I'm like, no, I fucking actually know him. Like, come on, man. Like, anyways, so I think it's interesting perspective. Because I'd always call it up. Like, I know that guy. Okay, so that's good. I think we got some of the main questions out of Top Chef, because I don't want to lose sight of the current you, right? Because I think really, from a fan or from someone standing afar, they look at your career and say, all of the stuff beforehand we don't know. We do know you got on Top Chef. You did all of that. You came up for Top Chef All-Stars. And then there's where you in that sort of period of time after Top Chef where you really started opening restaurants and sort of talk us through that. What how many restaurants number one total did you have at one time?
So at one point I had 8 restaurants.
8. Wow.
8. Yeah.
That's over how many locations?
Over 7 years. So we had 3 Taldes. We had 2 more other restaurants in Brooklyn. So it's 5. We opened, some would close and some would open. We had a restaurant. We had a Talde in Miami, a Talde in Jersey City, and a Talde in Brooklyn. A place called Pork Slope, a place called Thistle Hill Tavern, a place called Atlantic Social. There's very short-lived. We had Masoni. We had Rice and Gold. We had 2 spots in a food hall in West Palm Beach. 2 of the hotels, we had rooftops there. So it was kind of opening a bar. And then we had a nightclub. So it's 11 venues. We probably had 11 venues at one point. Wow.
I hate that.
Not at one point, but off and on.
Off and on, right? Throughout the period of time.
Yeah, and, within 7 years.
And so really around that time with all those restaurants and was it just you? Were you managing with people?
Yeah, so I had some partners and that was really one of the biggest, I think, problems. And when I first presented a business plan to my, actually I went to family and said, hey, would you invest? That was my some of them were like, hey, why are you doing this with partners? Can't you do this yourself? Sure. And I didn't have the confidence to do it myself. I was like, no, I'm just a cook. I'm just a chef. It's what I do. I do food. I handle the food properly. And, and very close people to me were like, hey, Dale, it's all you. No matter what you say, it's all you. People are along for this ride, but you're getting notoriety because of what you've done on TV and the work that you've done. And you don't go to restaurants because, you go to restaurants because the food's great, right? Yeah. And then everything else kind of falls into place, right? Sure. The wine, the ambiance, the cocktails, all that other stuff's great. But it's because the food's good. Go to there to eat. And I didn't listen to them. And, I got into business with some people, and it just became this thing where we started opening restaurants just to open restaurants. And it wasn't, we weren't really taking care. It was spreading ourselves way too thin. And there's a lot of lessons in that in business when it's you got to take care of what got you there. Yeah. And you got to take care of you got to take care of the main business first before we start opening up. Right. And we didn't do that. We thought we could expand. And first of all, I thought I trusted these people, which at the end of the day, I couldn't because, one of them was taken from me. And, but it was there was never a stable foundation, right? We never built up that, here's the CEO, CFO.
No org chart. There's no organizational chart. Yeah.
There was none. Zero. Especially when you're relying on your partners to do it. And, one of them's a burnout bartender and the other one is a straight up con artist. So it's it just became so much, and I wasn't able to kind of hone in on what made something great, the food. Yeah. And I was dragged off to partners that we had, like hotel partners, be like, hey, service wasn't good at the rooftops, so I didn't go to rooftops. Why is service not good up here? And then, just getting also kind of pressured into when it's 2 against 1. I had 2 partners and they'd known each other for a very long time. I was always the outlier.
Wow.
I was always the outlier, right? So I was always the odd man out. My opinion was always the odd man out. So anyway, we thought we had a great, we had something good. And then, we ended up being in business for I stayed 3 years too long. Right. And dudes who kind of just would mooch your name. And we talked about this before about pulling the ripcord, right? When do you know that this isn't working? And whenever you know that moment isn't working, you got to do something about it.
Yeah.
You can't sit.
Yeah.
You cannot sit and wait. And when you know that you aren't, and for me as a chef, it's I should have never had partners, but 2, and I should never give away my equity. And you should never, if you can't do it, you got to hire someone that can do it. You got to hire up, right?
Yeah.
That's always, I think, the term that you use. When you're in business, you hire up. If you need someone you need operations person or someone to help kind of organize the operation, hire a director of ops. You need someone, here in my restaurant, I'm the executive chef and the founder, right? That's kind of what I call him, as the owner, founder.
Yeah.
But I'm not the executive chef day to day. I have a chef that is great at doing that, at running a kitchen and running the day-to-day operations of this place. Do I oversee him? Every day we touch base.
But you're hired up, so you're confident in his skill, or him or her, whoever, right? Yeah.
Yeah. You have to. You have to be confident in these people, and you have to trust these people, right? And that's when I started. That's when one of the moments where you got to go is when you stop trusting people. Not just from a fact of hey, I can't trust you to, I can't trust you with my money. That's one thing. But 2, I don't trust you to do what it is that you're asked to do in this business situation. Whether it's hey, you need to be the front of the house guy to make sure service is running okay. Can I not trust you to do that anymore? I can't. So we can't be in business together.
Yeah, time to pack up shop. Yeah.
Yeah, it's time to pack up and go and figure out your exit strategy, right?
Yeah.
And at all costs, right? There can't be this it's going to get better. It's not. It's not.
Absolutely.
It's not going to get better.
Well, I will say this. I will shout out. So one of the people that I manage for my actual day job, who's on the chat, big Top Chef fan. She was looking forward to this. So Avani, I see you out there asking questions, and I think it's a testament to that. Not to butter you up on in public here, but I mean, I'm the same way. I manage a team, and I don't pretend to think for 1 second that I know everything or that I'm good at everything, right? I surround myself with talent that is good at what they do. I'm just good at helping put the puzzle pieces together at that point, right? So shout out to my one of my reports, Avani. I see you. Thank you for coming. And so here's a question. I think, and we're going to really segue now into the current you, which is I think where we're going, right? And not to make light of that short part of the journey, which is the 8 restaurants. I think there's a lot of stories and content that probably needs to be told there. And I mean, whether or not that becomes another episode, I think that's good too. But I think we want to go to we want to know what's going on with you, right? So one of the questions from one of my mods was asking, so since COVID. So now let's overlay the pandemic, right, as the sort of current situation. So before the pandemic, what were you actually doing? Wow, did you have the one restaurant or just the one now?
Yeah, no. Before the pandemic, we opened Goose Feather in September of 19, the day after Labor Day. So that's the 7th, I think, some period.
Yeah.
We opened, and it was a slow open, and it was intentional for us. It was hey, let's slow open this. And it was a slow open. We were a brand new restaurant, so we did 20, 30 covers, and it was really slow. And then it started to come. When I met my partners here at this restaurant, they owned the hotel. So they brought me in to kind of be the jewel box restaurant in this hotel.
In the hotel, yeah.
Yeah. So, when we were kind of described when they're hey, what kind of food do you want to do there? And I was hey, listen, I did my research. I looked at the comp set, this area we're in Westchester. this part of New York, there's a ton of Italian restaurants. There's a ton of like steakhouses, and there's a ton of like fill in the blank bistro. So tons of these restaurants.
So none of those
like,
for sure.
Yeah. So I was like, guys, what do you think about opening up a Cantonese restaurant, Chinese restaurant in this space? And we're in a 150-year-old mansion. And they were like, it's risky, but I like it. And I was like, I think so too. I think we're unique. I think we're going to be a destination spot. And I think we're going to be cool enough for people who are staying here to be like, hey, I ate at a cool restaurant that I didn't know was at this hotel. But, you know, you don't live off those people. You live off locals.
The repeat business.
The repeat business.
Yeah.
So I was like, we want to be special enough for these repeat people and have so much of a vibe and be something fresh and new here that these people come to eat. So it really it took off. And, you know, September was slow. October was big. November was bigger. And then December was like crescendo. We're firing in all cylinders. And then January, we still were busy. And then February, you know, was a natural tail off. And then March came.
Yeah, that was it.
Like a ton of bricks. And
especially in New York too. Yeah, New York was like.
And in Westchester specifically, because there was like, we were like patient zero. There was a patient zero in this community. Wow. It was tough. And we, you know, I convinced my partners, I said, hey guys, we were on such a great run. If we just close right now and don't do takeout or whatever, we're going to lose the momentum that we had.
Sure.
So they knew we weren't going to make any money, but they're like, we agree. So when we eventually open up, you'll fire, you know, you'll get back to kind of where you were.
You'll catch up. Yeah.
Yeah. So come June, you know, April, June, we were allowed to open, and then we opened, I think, on the 11th, and we've been outside. We're most of our restaurants outside, 100 seats outside. We probably have about 25, 30 seats inside, and we're crushing it right now. Because if you look at the way the restaurant's spaced out, it's like we have a gorgeous garden and backyard, and we put some time and effort into it. We have, you know, planter boxes where we put vegetables and stuff. So, you know, it kind of fits. We're just hoping that we can kind of ride this out, and hopefully there's some type of answer to what the fall and winter look like when it comes to outdoor seating. Because
sure.
Obviously,
yeah, that's a challenge, especially in New York.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But it was a real blessing. I mean, we came out guns blazing pre-COVID, and with Goose Feather, it really was my wife and I started our own hospitality brand after I left, and we dissolved the group.
Yeah,
it's called Food Crush Hospitality, and you know, she's been really like a person for me to lean on. You know, giving me the confidence to say, hey, just do your vision. And I think with business, when you hear the do you, but it really means so much in business. In whatever venture you are, right? Yeah. You have to believe in what it is that you have to believe in it 100%, or else no one's going to believe it.
No one's going to believe it. Absolutely.
So whatever it is, you got to be like, hey, this is what we're doing. Stick to your guns. And then if it doesn't work, then you pivot and you make some changes. But initially, if you're wavering, then people are going to be like, oh, I don't know
they can
about
tell.
This either.
Yeah, they can tell when you're not confident.
Right? If you don't. Yeah, and I think it should start with something you believe in and you like, right? Like, when I came on board here, like our wine program here is only old world wines. We have a couple new world wines because it kind of fell in our lap.
Yeah. But
old world wines, so France, Italy, Spain, primarily, that's where we get all our wines from. Nothing domestic, nothing from Napa, nothing from the West Coast. And I believed in it because I knew that this area was very like, hey, new world wine heavy. They liked a lot of their buttery Chardonnays from Napa Valley and all this other stuff. And I was like, listen, that's not what I like to drink. And people picked up on it. They're like, your wine list is so interesting. I love it. And I was like, cool, thank you. I thought we were going to get some pushback from it because we don't have these labels that people, you know.
Yeah, they look for, right?
They look for.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So, and then, you know, with hiring up, my general manager here, he ran a cocktail bar in the city for a while. He was a partner there. And he was an amazing hire, probably one of the best hires I've had, him and my executive chef. And he took the cocktail program someplace that I didn't even think, I never thought. Yeah. He's very creative. He's very kind of next level. His drinks are crave worthy without being too kind of esoteric where you're like, oh, I don't even know what the fuck I'm drinking.
Yeah. Yeah. Why are there fireworks? What the fuck is this? Yeah.
Yeah. I don't like, and I had to trust him. And I was like, listen, Carlos, I believe your palate with wine is similar to mine, so I'm going to believe your palate with cocktails are similar to mine.
Yeah.
Even though, like I told you before, dude, if I'm partying, I want shitty tequila and Jameson's all night long. He made an amazing cocktail list that people really picked up on, and they loved it. So, then you have to trust somebody that like they're going to do the job that you need them to do.
Yeah, that you put them in the position to do, right? So
exactly, you put them in a position to excel, and I'll let them do their job and don't micromanage. And like I said, I don't like, and I think that's another part of what is successful here is like, listen, guys, make your schedule. I don't care what time you get in. I don't care what time you leave, as long as the job gets done.
Right.
And
yeah.
I think
the end goal. Yeah.
Yeah. Is the job done? Is everyone taken care of? And is everyone happy? Great. I don't care if you worked 7 hours. I don't want you working any more than 9 if you have to.
Yeah.
But make it work.
I'm not going to knock you for being efficient if it only takes you 6 hours to do your job. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't like. For me, it's like, listen, man. I've worked in. We've all worked in those kitchens. I've worked in those kitchens long enough where it's like, I put in 90-hour work weeks. When I first opened Talde, I was working 100-hour work weeks. I didn't take a day off for 30. For 90 days. I worked straight, and I was like, this is for the birds. I need a day off. But you're not getting, at that end, like on that 89th day, I was like a puddle of mud.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much.
I was useless.
Yeah.
I was useless to anything. So.
Oh boy. Well, I mean, I think that's great. I'm kind of glad, and it's unfortunate that I didn't. So around the time you were opening restaurants, I didn't get a chance to. I wasn't traveling much. We just had the first kid, and like our go-to, because we had family in LA, was if you're Filipino, you got to go to California at some point. I lived there for a little bit, right? So, but we need to come out to the restaurant. I'd love to come out and chop it up and eat. I eat anything anyway. It doesn't matter.
For sure, man.
But I think really what the culmination of all of this, right? I guess as far as being in the pandemic, your business is turning around. You have this sort of model that you're hoping will last, and then you're going to have to pivot at some point or figure out what's the next iteration, because when cold weather comes, right, then you don't have seating. Do you do takeout? Is there like a product you can sell that ties you over until summertime or spring or whatever, right? So these are all things that are very interesting, because we as consumers typically don't think about, right? We just think about, yeah, that restaurant's dope, I'm going to go eat there. And then winter comes and I'm like, so what do we do now? Like, do we order from them? Do we go somewhere else? Right. So no, that's dope. I think, I wish in a way, like I kind of wish I was a chef. I wish I was good at cooking, but I'm just terrible. I'm terrible at it.
Yo, man, you can, you just, life happens, and maybe at some point you'll pick it up and say, hey, if I had to tell you something, man, make sure your knives are sharp. It makes your life so much easier.
So I think for public, I'm gonna call you out here, Dale, while people are watching. Perhaps, if you have the time, we need to do some cooking segments, some live stream,
Bring it on.
Some live stream Dale cooking segments. Well,
Bring
we
it
have.
on. I'll make my mom's. I'll make. Listen, you ask your dudes. Get a consensus of one dish. Put a couple dishes up there.
Yeah.
And let them vote on which one they want, and I'll make it. I'll cook it,
Dude.
and it could be anything. Something from Top Chef. I don't care. Whatever it is, and we'll do it.
Yeah, we'll do the research, and then we can even do it, because no one knows you're a big hip hop head too. So, we'll have Dave spin, or we'll do like a co-stream with some music, and I think it'll be dope.
I'm down.
And I will say, since you did, and we talked about this in the pre-call, since you did, live down the street from Illmind, you want to tell him I said what's up? Illmind is another guy we'd love to grab.
Oh, dude.
And pick his brain.
Dude, I'll throw him your way. See what's up.
Yeah, my guy. See, look at that. I'm like constantly working my own brand. I don't mean to be doing it, but you know how it goes.
Hey, man, you have to. You gotta. If you want it, you gotta go and get it.
Yes.
You gotta say it, and it becomes it.
Yep, that's what I'm talking about.
Listen, peep your boy out. Sometime hopefully early next year or early 2022. I got something cooking up in one of the airports here in New York. So you'll see.
LaGuardia or
it's not been released yet.
Okay,
but,
we'll leave it as a mystery.
Keep an eye out for your boy.
Yeah,
I'll have something out in the near future,
Okay.
if not sooner, because we're always looking for new projects. So
Absolutely. And here's my final question. I think this is the one that sort of got asked a few times in chat, and I've seen it go up and down, and I haven't really said anything until now. When is Dale going to come back to Chicago and open a restaurant out here?
No, man, I've had a few. I've had a few projects. Nothing has exactly been the right fit.
Yeah.
But I would love to. I would love to, just, you know, for selfish reasons of being close to home and being by my family. But you know, the city of big shoulders, and it kind of molded me. The city that molded me. I'd love to come back and flex and see friends, and you know, see how I've kind of grown in my journey and with food and hospitality. I'd love to.
Yeah. I think people would love it. You know, get one of their local boys back to, you know what I mean? Like,
I'd love it, man. I'd love to put a Talde back there, and you know, so if anyone knows anybody a hotel, or if anybody knows anybody who's looking for an F&B partner, holler at your boy, because you know,
the mind is always working. Yeah,
it is. And I will say that, guys, eat out at your favorite restaurants, because this industry, hospitality, entertainment, are suffering the most. And support. You want to see a restaurant survive this, eat out there more than once. And now what I always say, what I tell my wife is, order too much, drink too much, and tip double what you should, because these restaurants nowadays need that help.
Truth.
Yep.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, echo that sentiment. Yeah, we got to support them, because I think, you know, whenever we go back to whatever normal is going to be, whatever that is, the landscape's going to be completely changed.
Totally different.
You know, especially if you want that one restaurant or that one business, you know, and have a personal connection with. I mean, and you know, at the end of the day, it's money. They need money to sustain their business. So
they need your support, and support is by not just like a tweet or a Instagram post. It's to actually go to the restaurant and
buy some food,
spend some money.
Yeah,
buy some food.
Absolutely. Well, look, Dale. I mean,
I got a quick question.
Yeah, go ahead. What's up?
Do you have like a guilty pleasure restaurant, whether it be like a sit down or like a fast food joint?
Oh, Popeyes.
Oh,
Popeyes.
There it is.
Popeyes.
Yes.
I will. That spicy chicken sandwich, I had it for the first time before COVID. That is the game changer. It is the standard bearer. Everybody who's on the Chick-fil-A train,
sorry,
you know, get off. Yeah, Popeyes. Get me some Popeyes and rice, and hot sauce and ranch. It's game over for me. Tell
that to Dave, who likes KFC.
Oh, Dave, dude.
That is because he's old, bro.
Yeah, that's true.
Hopeful's like KFC.
Yeah, Dave still calls it Kentucky Fried Chicken. So that's when you know.
He calls it I like the Kentucky Fried Chicken.
The Kentucky Fried Chicken.
The Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Dude,
my mom likes Kentucky Fried Chicken. I love Popeyes. You can't beat. They're spicy. They're spicy, crunchy. It's unbeat. It's the standard bearer. I used to have a dude that worked at Popeyes, and he took the flour mix that they dip all the chicken in, and he brought it to the restaurant. We were dipping everything in it. We followed the instructions of how to make it into a batter. We were putting everything in it. I mean, we were battering like just rando vegetables like broccoli, and we're like, yo, this is the best broccoli you've ever had in your life.
Oh, imagine Popeye battered vegetables.
But you know what? If they did that, they would be like killing it. If they did like the vegetarian version, like Popeye's battered cauliflower.
Hell yeah, man.
I don't right now.
Fucking Popeyes, man. Me is Popeyes in the Thai sweet chili sauce. I'll just dip in there. That's also good. But anyways, now I'm fucking hungry. I haven't eaten anything since 12 o'clock. No, 11 o'clock maybe. So I'm hurting a little bit. Well, look, with that, and I think there's a lot more stuff to talk about. I think we can save those nuggets. I want to thank you, Dale. I mean, I appreciate it. Like, to be honest.
Hey, man, no problem.
Yeah, when I reached out to you, I was reaching out to you as a fan. Like, oh man, I'd love to have Dale on here, because that's the first thing I was thinking of as a fan, like just to be able to talk to you and pick your brain. So, thank you for taking the time. And I know there's more stories to tell, and even just connecting back on a more like just homie level, which is great.
Yeah,
Just catching up. So, thanks for the viewers and everybody out there who stuck it out. I know we didn't even think about like what time or format. I thought we just let it roll. And of course, there's a hype train.
Hype train.
At the end. So what that is, Dale, just so you know, I'm gonna give you the Twitch 5-second lesson. So a hype train is when in your chat or your viewers are making donations and they're giving stuff, and then it becomes this hype train. It triggers an event, and the event of the hype train is the goal is to to build up the hype train. And there's a timer, and so people it's a momentum type thing. So oh my god! And I just got 5 gifted subs from my mod Matsurap. So now that's hype train level 2. Look, it's this stream game, Dale. I'm telling you, I think we need to talk like business wise offline. Like we need to connect because I think there's an avenue.
Man.
Yeah, there's an avenue for you for sure.
Yeah. And let's run this back, dude. Let's run this back.
Yes.
Definitely food, music, and being Pinoy is.
We could talk for days.
We could talk for days.
Yeah.
There's something there, and we need to be making our Filipino food now.
Absolutely.
Our generation's Filipino food. We need to be making it.
Absolutely. So on behalf of like my mod Quincy, thank you again. My mods in the chat.
Thank you.
The Hoy Luck Club. Let me do my little drop again.
Hoy Luck.
The Hoy Luck Club. If you don't know Dale, the Hoy Luck Club, we're taking over. It's a bunch of old ass cats spinning hip hop and R&B, but we're gonna do it, man. We're gonna do it.
Right there with you.
All right. Well, thank you again. Appreciate it. We will talk again soon. To my viewers, thank you again. Hype Train. Love y'all. Till the next time, CVO Narrative. We're out. Peace.
Later, guys.
All right. Perfect. So let me just drop this desktop audio and drop